across the UK. On DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Hello and a good evening to you. It is Petrie here with you through until 1 o'clock, and of course at midnight it is the phone-in, the full hour of phone-in. And it's a very, I think it's quite a simple question, and that is, how much privacy are you prepared to give away for security? And do you trust that the security measures that are in place and will be in place are there for your benefit? Because when I look through what's happening at the moment and what could happen in the future, particularly with AI, it really does send a shiver down my spine. And many of you will have the argument, well, if you've got nothing to hide, you've got nothing to fear. But that is only reliant on trusting the government. And if I asked you today, if I did a phone-in right now saying, do you trust the Labour government? Overwhelmingly, I know that you would say no. No, I don't trust the Labour government. They've lied about this, they've lied about that. No, I don't trust the Labour government. So why on earth would you trust the Labour government or the police force or any of the big organisations with an incredibly powerful AI tool that raids all your data and forms a picture of you? And when you say, I've got nothing to hide, I've got nothing to fear, that is the biggest lie that you ever tell yourself or that anybody ever tells you. And I've got examples of why, even if you're the most innocent person in the world, you have something to fear from this overstretch and creeping technology. For example, in America, who would have thought Donald Trump recently signing an executive order or putting it out on Truth Social, which is now apparently as good as an executive directive, according to Caroline Levitt, that doctors are not to treat Democrats or unmarried veterans. I mean, they're innocent, right? I mean, doctors, I think the Hippocratic Oath would forbid them from doing that. But basically, this is what I'm talking about. Governments change, directions change. Are you really that convinced that you can trust these people that you wouldn't trust to carry your shopping across the street with your data? And again, a lot of you will say, oh, well, look, every time we go online, you're putting data out, you're doing this, you're doing that. If it's not all gathered in one place to build a specific picture of me and my life and my sex life and my politics and my beliefs, they're not all together. And when they are, that is power. Not for me, but for whoever's looking at it. So that's what I want to talk to you about at midnight. I want to test your trust, because I know that if I did a phone-in about, do you trust the police? Do you trust the government? I know that your answer would be, on the whole, no. And yet, you've got nothing to hide, you've got nothing to fear from these people. Really? Give me a call. 0344 499 1000. That's the number you're going to need. And you can text as well, 87222. You can also WhatsApp 0344 499 1000 and leave a voice message on that number. So that's all coming up at midnight. Before that, we have our newspaper review with the fabulous Vincent Moss. Then we're going to be heading off to Movieland with Van Connor. James Wally is here to talk to us about travel and, well, driverless taxis coming to a London street near me soon. Don't think I'll be using those. But first, that story. Today, the newspaper published a fascinating investigation into the use of a controversial AI-powered crime-fighting software used by forces in England, as many as a dozen forces in England. The tool allows access to sensitive personal information, including people's sex lives, their sexual preferences, etc., health, political beliefs, whether they're members of trade unions or not. None of this stuff I would have thought was particularly vital to them, but however it does. This is the Palantir system, and it's meant to bring together several existing police databases to a single platform to help the forces draw up a detailed profile of suspects. However, MPs and privacy campaigners have raised concerns about how much information will be safeguarded. There's also talk about them using it for predictive policing, predictive arrests. Mark Wilding led this investigation and joins me now, investigative journalist at Liberty Investigates and author of, as I said, of this investigation. Mark, if you could just give me a broad view of this piece of kit since you've investigated it.
Hi Petrie, thanks for having me. Yeah, so this is a pilot scheme. It's running in the east of England, being led by Bedfordshire Police. And this is involving a company, a US tech firm called Palantir, as you say, a very interesting firm founded by a man named Peter Thiel, a billionaire, one of the founders of PayPal, one-time Donald Trump donor, a very opinionated individual. And Palantir works with various companies, public sector agencies, militaries all over the world to, as they would say, help them get the most from their data. Now, we found out that Bedfordshire Police is working with Palantir on this new system that draws together various different databases. And as you say, the documents we obtained show that this is drawing together information that includes details about people's sex lives, their health records, their political beliefs, trade union membership. And it's not just suspects we're talking about here. This is information about people who might be victims of crime. They might be witnesses to crimes. They might be people who are judged to be about to commit a crime, and children as well. So it's a pretty wide-ranging bit of tech, and has alarmed a few people.
A lot of people would say, well, look, you know, this is all to the good. I know I've read a lot about what the police have been saying about this. They're saying it cuts down our investigation time. But does it lead to, or could it, in your view, lead to profiling? So in other words, it will actually reduce good police work because they might think they've already got the answer. And then, you know, eventually fits the evidence around who they think they've got on their database?
Well, it's a very astute question. I mean, when you talk about profiling, that's exactly the kind of language that is used in the documents that were disclosed by Bedfordshire Police. They disclosed them to us under the Freedom of Information Act, and it talks about creating profiles of individuals. So yeah, that's exactly what they're doing here. I think the point you make about whether that then leads people to make decisions based on, you know, a profile rather than doing the kind of police work that they might have done in the past. Well, this is a problem that we do see with AI systems. Authorities that introduce AI systems are normally pretty clear that there's always a human in the loop. But the problem that we see is that if an AI system is spitting out a result and saying this is the person you're looking for, or this is the decision that it's recommending that the person makes, it can be quite difficult to sort of go out on a limb and overrule that decision. So yeah, I think that is a concern with any system like this.
When we look at the kind of information that will be gathered, we are also aware that our information is money. The DVLA already sells our information to interested parties. We have the NHS already using this company, Palantir. And with the police doing so as well, and a reduction in budgets, and everybody keen to cut money and things like that, could the police, could the NHS begin to use this as a revenue stream? It's not beyond the realms of it's not fantasy, because we know it's already done.
Well, it's not something that's set out in the in the project description that we've seen thus far. But as you point out, data is a very valuable asset. The police clearly think it's a valuable asset because they've hired Palantir to help them get the most out of it. And these were exactly the kind of concerns that people were raising when it became clear that Palantir was going to land itself a very valuable NHS contract, £330 million, to try and bring together all of that valuable data that the NHS holds. So while that doesn't appear to be on the cards for this project at the moment, those are the kinds of things that critics of Palantir are very concerned about whenever they see it getting more and more involved in public services.
We know as well that the government, certain aspects of the government, and certainly Tony Blair, is pushing for an ID database, so that we would all have to have ID cards or have them on our phones or whatever. That again will be more and more of this data collection. But many people would say, if you've got nothing to hide, you have nothing to fear from this level of this lack of privacy, if you like, that everything is going to be gathered into one place. How would you answer that?
I think the nothing to hide, nothing to fear statement, if you like, obviously comes up a lot in reference to these kinds of debates. And I think you made a very good point in your introduction to this segment. I think it's about people making an informed decision when they decide whether they're happy with their data being used in this way. And they may think that they have nothing to fear now, but governments can change. You need to be aware that if you're making that decision, and people may decide that they are happy for their data to be used in this kind of way, but you need to be happy for it to be used regardless of who the administration is in charge. And I think perhaps people don't always take that into account when they're weighing up, the benefits of opening up access to sensitive personal information and looking at, what they might get back in return.
If we look at the combination of AI that is now being used for our safety, we can't do that really without looking at facial recognition programs as well. And the horror when I dig into these things, to find that there is no oversight to how these things are used. Even this AI policing tool, this Palantir policing tool, there's the police services. I read a line by Keir Starmer saying they can use it how they see fit to use it. So there doesn't appear to be a body that would say, no, that is overreach. You don't need facial recognition in the corner post office shop. That is going too far against people's privacy for the sake of what? Is there anybody that does that job?
Well, there is a biometrics and surveillance camera commissioner. There is obviously an information commissioner as well. There's a limit to what they can do.
They're all voluntary codes at the moment, though, aren't they?
Well, there's no specific legislation governing the use of facial recognition. So that, I think, is an issue for many people who are concerned about this. I mean, it's being used extensively by UK police at the moment, who are rapidly increasing the extent to which they use it. I've done a lot of work on that as well. You mentioned, it being used in your local post office. Well, the private sector is another thing. So yeah, facial recognition is rapidly rolling out, and at the moment, I would say there's not a great deal of official oversight at all.
Should any of this just be proportionate? Like I said, if it's the local post office and they're using facial rec, that would seem to be disproportionate to somebody saying, well, no, that really is going too far. Privacy does matter. It doesn't feel to me like anybody's really talking about the fact that oh, you'll be safer, but nobody's talking about once you lose privacy, it is gone.
Well, I think the police have really been dominating the debate about facial recognition to date, and so we have heard like what it offers. Clearly, it is or can be a useful tool to the police, or they believe so. Otherwise, they wouldn't be pursuing it. I think every individual will fall differently on the line of what is proportionate use of it and what isn't. But I would say I'm not sure that we have had that debate. Without legislation, MPs aren't able to feed into that debate, and we live in a parliamentary democracy, and with a powerful tool such as facial recognition, it would be my view that MPs should be feeding in on something that powerful and potentially invasive. Yeah.
When we look at a company like Palantir and how they are growing and their prospective growth as well in this field, is it ever safe to have that much data gathered under one umbrella in one company?
Well, I think one of the things that this investigation did show is that Bedfordshire Police is saying that this is actually not creating any new data. We're not gathering anything new. We're simply making better use of the data that we have. And, that's interesting in and of itself, how much power is gained from tapping into the data they already have. But yeah, I think it will be news to a lot of people that the police have access to so much sensitive personal information about us already that it is there on tap for them to use in real time should they wish. And I think that, bringing in a company that has proved as controversial as Palantir and giving it sort of stewardship of a large amount of very sensitive personal data will be concerning to many people, yeah.
And we know that Keir Starmer has had a meeting, it was an unminuted meeting with Palantir, set up by Mandelson, who has, let's say, things to gain from Palantir doing well with the UK. That is also an issue, isn't it, as to who is lobbying, who is pushing this agenda. And Mandelson wanted that meeting. He's no longer CEO of his particular company that's attached, but he is on the board. There's money to be made. Does that worry you as well when you see the interconnectedness of companies and people and lobbying, and it doesn't feel like it's about our safety or our protection?
Well, look, that falls outside the scope of the work I've been doing recently, looking into how the police are using this software. But clearly, Palantir is a very powerful, very valuable company with a lot of connections, including Peter Mandelson and Keir Starmer, and in the US, very powerful connections as well. Yeah. I think when a company has such powerful, potentially invasive technology that could potentially enable mass surveillance and has those powerful political connections as well, in light of what we were talking about in terms of being comfortable with not only how your data is being used now, but how it might be used in the future. I think that is potentially alarming. Yeah.
And the other thing is about AI specifically. We learned only a couple of weeks ago that AI now has taught itself how to lie. We know that AI can be racist. We know that AI can manufacture facts if it wants to. And Donald Trump, in his big, beautiful bill, is trying to pass a law saying that there'll be no oversight on AI for 10 years. clearly there's been lobbying. I mean, there's a lot of people working in AI close to him who want the freedom to go as far as they can with this technology. Where do you see this ending up?
I don't think anyone knows the answer to that question, and I sort of go back and forth on where I think this sort of current boom in AI is going, and whether it's a hype cycle or whether it's sort of the end of the world as we
end
know
of
it,
humankind.
really.
Yeah.
I think that's even more reason to to be cautious about embracing potentially very powerful new technologies. I don't think that all AI is terrible. I use AI tools myself, and sometimes they're marvelous. It astounds me what they can do. But I think we should be very careful about rushing in and embracing these kind of things and handing new powers to the police, and doing that without the necessary transparency and debate. And I think, as you say, the lobbying does come into that, and these are some very powerful companies. I think this is an issue with UK policing in general. The influence that private firms have, and the Home Office saying that, well, it's up to police forces, what they do. It creates a Wild West atmosphere where they can explore the kinds of technologies they want, strike individual contracts with these companies, and no one really has an overview of what's going on. And I think that is concerning when we're talking about privacy and personal liberty and those kind of things.
It's fascinating talking to you. I'd like to do it again sometime if you're up for it. Mark Wilding, thank you very much indeed. Investigative journalist at Liberty Investigates and author of the investigation that I've taken this topic from. It's a really good investigation. If you've got the eye or you've got access to the eye online, I'd suggest you have a read of it. It's really, really good. So that's going to be the phone in. I'll give you more details on that in just a moment.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Hello there, this is Talk, and it's Petrie here with you. And the phone-in at midnight really is just about how much privacy are you prepared to give up for security, because that's always what we're told. We're told that having all of these CCTVs and having all of these things they are there to protect you. So we go for it, don't we? Because if you're a little bit scared, or you think, oh, crikey, then you'll accept anything for protection. But are we going in the right direction? I mean, statements like this should really concern you. Crime fighting tool is the latest manifestation of the government's push to harness artificial intelligence to improve the performance of cash-strapped public services. And why should that matter to you? Well, because it's a shortcut. Policing, it could be a shortcut, lead to profiling, lead to the AI tool saying, this is your perp, this is the person who did it. And it could lead as well to the police selling your private data to a company, I don't know, maybe a car insurance company or a mortgage company, or to a health insurance company, the NHS, taking all of your personal data and then flogging it off to, you know, to interested parties. And while these organisations are cash strapped, they're always looking for another way to make money. I mean, the police now already with their speeding and parking and number plate recognition and all of those things to top up the cash. So, are you happy with this? Do you trust that the police will use this in a way that it should be used? British police forces have signed contracts with this US tech giant to buy this software, and it uses data about an individual's race, sex life, health, political beliefs, whether they are trade union members or not, all sorts of information. And it's not just criminals that they keep this information or build this information, it's witnesses. Why? What right have they got to do that to a witness? Victims. It's enough to make me not want to report a crime. Maybe that's how they're going to get the crime figures down. Because victims will go through the same process and be held on a database. So anybody who tells you this is, oh, you've got nothing to hide, you've got nothing to fear. Facial recognition. Being used now, the multitude of CCTV now and facial recognition is used by private companies, not overseen by anybody. There is no legislation. Facial recognition cameras being used in shops that wrongly, that without due process. Get this, right? What they can do, somebody's sitting up there with a bit of a complex, maybe they don't like women, maybe they don't like brown people, maybe they don't like tall people, maybe they don't like short people, I don't know. And they see somebody in their shop and they can highlight them, get their face and add it to a database to get them banned from any shop in the area. No oversight. The person who has been tagged in this way, by the way, isn't even told. No oversight, no right to due process, no ability to say, but I didn't steal anything. It's just if you're suspected that you might steal something, somebody can add your face without oversight to a block list. Is that okay? Yeah, well, that's okay. That won't happen to me. That happens to other people. Let me know, are you really not worried about this? Are you genuinely okay with it? I know that if I asked you if you trusted this government, you'd say no. And yet, well, I'll trust them with my private data. Why not? Give me a call. 0344 499 1000. Calls are charged at the national rate, but we do call you straight back.
across the UK. On DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Hi there, this is Talk, and it's Petrie here with you. And coming up is James Wally, who's going to be talking to us about all sorts of things. So let's start now, actually. I was going to say coming up, I've got it the wrong way around. It's Van Connor is coming up right now. Is James Wally, broadcast journalist and host of the Ultimate Road Trip podcast. James, sorry if I gave you a bit of a shock there.
That's okay, not a problem.
I just thought I'd swap around the guest, why not?
Ready when you are.
Driverless taxi plans. This has been brought forward. I didn't think that, and there's going to be no human oversight to these as well. I didn't think we were that far ahead.
We are. They brought it forward. They announced the Automated Vehicles Act of 2024 has paved the way for robo-taxis, as they're calling them, to be trialled in London. First city of Europe to trial them from spring next year. It was going to be 2027, but spring next year. Yeah, we're going to be driven around with nobody in the driving seat, Petrie, which either is absolutely fantastic or absolutely nightmarish, depending on your point of view.
Yeah, I mean, I thought, I mean, again, I've just been talking about AI, and I genuinely believed that there was an issue with the decision making by these autonomous vehicles. For example, if they suddenly go out of control and there's an old man walking by, or there's a mother with a pram and a baby, which one does it run over? These are the questions that are asked of these vehicles. And so far, they're not been satisfied with the decision making that these AI cars have been making. So I thought, I mean, I'm sure the technology is there to drive the car, but it's about the decision making, isn't it, about what the car does in a potential accident situation?
Yeah, they've been developing now with the driver sitting in for 10 years. You know, it's been a long time now since they've been trying to get these on the roads. I mean, the first research was started 30 years ago. It was the Prometheus project of the mid-90s, and that started by Volvo and Jaguar to look into radar guidance for cars. And obviously it's come forward, and we're now at a stage where lots of American cities, especially Austin, obviously Tesla's hometown, they've got so many different driverless robo-taxi firms, including Tesla. They're starting their special project this Sunday in Austin, and it's across China, across other parts of the States as well. There are hundreds of thousands of trips being made. But you're right in the fact that it's not infallible. General Motors, you know, the behemoth, if that's the right way of pronouncing it, of automotive industries, had to shut down one of their projects when a lady, it was a low speed crash, and a pedestrian was dragged along 20-30 feet under the wheels of this car. So they had to stop their project. But you know, it's the technology, as you say, is there. The question mark: it works in America, it works in China, but does it work in the UK? We have a very different way of, you know, architectural layout.
I was going to say that. I mean, of all places to trial this, I would have thought London would have been the absolute worst. I mean, a lot of the places you're talking about in the US, they've got much bigger roads than we have. There's the grid system, which makes it infinitely easier. I mean, even driving around London and having a full human brain, you've got to be on the watch for a thousand different things. Can it work in London? I mean, I can't. I mean, a lot of people are suggesting that's why we've gone down to 20 miles an hour. It was nothing to do with road safety. It was to make the roads more available to these robo-taxis.
Yeah, they are investing. There's a new startup called Wave, and they're working alongside Uber, who's taken out a big investment, they've put a lot of money into this startup Wave in London, and they're looking to really kickstart the robo-taxi scheme next year. And there have been some trials over the past couple of months in London. Journalists have been taken out in some vehicles, and apparently, I'm now quoting. The car handled every potential hazard which appeared in the busy streets, including congestion, temporary lights, cyclists, and at one point a pedestrian using crutches in the middle of the road. But of course, in the UK, we are allowed to jaywalk. You think of all the people.
Yeah, exactly.
It's all about shared streets now, which is what obviously Sadiq Khan has been gunning for over the past few years. Look at Oxford Street and that crossing at Oxford Circus, and all the and
down near the museums. That's all shared spaces.
and all the cars, all the signage have been taken out, or the road markings. So it's shared space. And can the vehicles cope with people just jumping across the roads? In America, jaywalking is illegal. It's a federal. It's a criminal offence to jaywalk, so to not go across the specific part of the road, or to cross where it says don't walk. So their roads are far more predictable, and that's the thing. It's all about the predictability of the systems. And that's what the software and the AI has got to try and counter. As in, the average Brit walking around in a day on his phone or her phone.
Exactly, not looking at the roads, and presumably these cars will be silent as well, which which is the stealth killers on the roads at the moment, along with the stealth buses.
That's right.
I guess this is coming. I just wonder why they've chosen London. I mean, Steve McNamara, who is I've interviewed him 100 times, General Secretary of the Licensed Taxi Drivers Association, has said they're living in fantasy land. We're going to probably have flying taxis before we have autonomous ones in London. So he's not worried on behalf of his drivers in his union that they're going to lose their jobs.
Well, that's the thing. Well, they always said that Uber were going to take a lot of black cab business. That will have happened. Black cabs now. I know a guy who's an actor who used to have a black cab for work when he wasn't acting. He hasn't been able to upgrade his cab to an electric. One of these electric cabs. They're too expensive. So he's been taken off the road, sadly, and he was and that was a good side hustle for him. But we'll have to see whether this changes the Uber. Well, Uber's well involved with it, so they're looking for this to be a part of the 38 billion. Heidi Alexander, Transport Secretary, said 38 billion by 2035. 38,000 jobs projected to be created by robotaxis, autonomous vehicles.
We don't need. I mean, the other thing is, James, we don't need them in London. We've got the best transport system in the country, if not the blooming world. It's the countryside. Older people who can't drive anymore. They need these driverless cars.
They'll get out into the countryside, absolutely. And maybe it'll be better on motorways or on the countryside where it's just less. There are less people, and there's less chance of any incidents.
And of more use to people, I would have thought as well.
Exactly.
I don't know.
Yeah.
I mean, I should run the world, James, because honestly, the people who are making the decisions at the moment, they really need to take a look at themselves.
Petrie for leader, absolutely.
I just, I know this is coming. I mean, my own son has said, "Why bother learning to drive?" There's no, what's the point? By the time I can afford a car, it's going to drive itself. So what's the point? Let's have a look at the AA, talking of another issue that there would be to autonomous cars, and that is the state of our roads. If you've driven around Hammersmith recently, it's an absolute disgrace. The potholes, the rotting, it's all falling apart. Road structures in this country, and up on the A40 as well, there are potholes on the motorway. And
it's shocking, isn't it?
It's shocking. It's absolutely
That's why it's now 30 miles an hour, probably. It used to be delimited from central London out to West London, down past White City, but now it's you're right. We have a pothole crisis, Petrie. Who knew? It's kind of, and apparently also, I bet you didn't know this. There was a National Pothole Day, January the 15th. So put that in your diary.
I shall look forward to that. What do we do? Would we all go and stand in a pothole?
Exactly, sort of pointed it rather than just paint. They just paint round them and leave them for a year.
Yeah,
but
exactly.
Apparently we're spending, they've upped it by $500 million to $1.6 billion for road maintenance over the next, for 2025-26, believe it or not. That's a lot of money. They're hoping to fill 7 million potholes this financial year. I can't see it. I mean,
We haven't
exactly.
got the people to.
Apparently, £30. You can fill potholes. There's a special machine now. £30 and £30 in 20 minutes to fill a pothole. The problem is, of course, with the amount of vehicles on the roads, weather conditions just make they can just exacerbate the problems.
Freeze thaw. I learned
freeze
that.
thaw, exactly.
I learned that at school.
But
also the weight of the cars as well is a problem, isn't it? The weight of these electric cars now is really tearing up the roads.
Absolutely, yeah, and that's I think why we're seeing, roadworks proliferating across the UK. I mean, we've obviously had the smart motorways rollout. The AA report, they were saying about the state of roads, but the state of driving as well. I mean, I drive up and down to and from Lancashire quite a bit, and to Gloucestershire as well, and it's shocking. Some of the motorways as well, 22 to 25%, I think it was, of respondents to a survey said they see, that the motorways are getting worse in terms of the quality of the actual state of the roads.
It mentions my nemesis, the people I hate the most in the world, middle lane hoggers. Those people who think, well, I'm safe staying in the middle lane. It's not a middle lane. It is an overtaking lane. There's one driving lane and there are two overtaking lanes. There's no such thing as a middle lane.
But there are now 4, Petrie, that's the thing. And now people think it's like America. In America you can pass on either side. So people will stick in lane 3 and do 65, and then technically you're allowed to undertake if the car out on the outside lane is doing under the national speed limit, but it makes it really dangerous. So I'm in the outside lane overtaking at 70, and then there's a chap in the left lane doing about 75, 80, wanting to get and it's so dangerous. And you see that more and more and more. I've got my kids in the back, and you just kind of think, I just want to stick in the left lane and do, or just stay off the motorways some of the time, because it does seem to be getting worse.
Yeah, and also highlighted highlighting poor signage on these so-called smart motorways, telling us there's a lane closed when you drive, you do the right thing, and then there's nothing in the lane, and so you don't believe it next time. So all of those things as well, which can cause serious accidents if you don't believe the signage.
Yeah, and alongside you might be looking at your sat nav that'll be warning you of something, and then the motorway something else, saying something different, and then the travel news comes on and they might be saying something else that might be right or wrong depending on what the information they're getting. So you can be confused in, over a sort of 5-mile period where you're seeing 60 miles an hour in lane share. So, and of course, it's taking time for the operators at national highways to look at the cameras. There's a lot of automated cameras now operating on these smart motorways where they will detect a broken down vehicle. But of course, again, people aren't infallible. It's down to maybe technology is the way forward, and making sure that the information is correct.
Yeah, maybe that is the case.
As much as real time as possible.
Very quickly, because we're running out of time, but it's going to be extremely hot this weekend, which means I'm staying indoors. But there are 3 destinations in the sun. Just quickly.
Okay, South Coast. Highcliffe Beach, east of Christchurch, beautiful beach, like Greece or south of France. It's got this headland, and you walk through the trees to this beautiful beach. And there's a great road, A31 and the A35, through the forest of the forest there, and it's a beautiful road. It's a beautiful beach. That's where I would go if I was on the south coast. Brighton, Bournemouth, they'll be packed. Try and go for the little ones. I would say the smaller beaches. Wales, go through Eryri National Park, Snowdonia, as it was known, and it's the Welsh name Eryri. I'm not pronouncing that correctly, but anyway. Up to Anglesey. I love Anglesey. The west coast of Anglesey, I think, is a beautiful part of the Welsh coast. I mean, Rossley Bay down on the Gower Peninsula is amazing as well, and the Barrafundle Beach. And Scotland, west of Fort William, I've never been there, but I've just been living vicariously on Google Maps, Street View, looking at these incredible roads and beaches. Camustarach Beach, west of Fort William, looks incredible. Just 2 hours from Glasgow, if you're in Glasgow, and it's it just looks a fabulous place to be. If it's going to be 30 degrees this weekend?
Yeah, 33 apparently, potentially,
really?
Which is why I'm staying indoors. James, thank you very much indeed. Brilliant. I loved that. Really enjoyed that. Thank you very much indeed. Films are next.
across the UK. On DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Hello there, this is Talk, and coming up at the top of the hour, Vincent Moss will be here to go through the newspapers, but right now it is Van the Man, our film Connor, our film critic, Van Connor. Hello, Van.
I'm a Van of Connor and film, to be fair, but either combination works. How you doing, Petrie? How you doing, lovely?
I'm all right. It's so lovely to see your face, as ever. Talk to me about protein. Not you know, for me to eat, but
if someone says talk to me about protein, usually there's a longer conversation like a gym bro would have. Although that kind of fits into the mantra of the movie. So this is a sort of this is what you would get if you mashed together Fresh and Love Lies Bleeding and made it Welsh. This is about a sort of wandering loner type who gets like odd jobs working as a sort of, you know, handyman type in a sort of casual gym. Not like a pure gym, obviously. There's no monthly subscription in this. Right. Like a casual gym. And he falls afoul of the local criminal element, like a sort of gang of middle-aged dudes who are like clearly like up to no good. They're running this gym. And he very quickly reveals that he's not just a wanderer, he's a cannibalistic serial killer who actually murders people and eats them for their protein. And when he does this to the leader of this gang, who happens to be Reese from Torchwood, if you get that reference, Kai Owen, he sets off a chain of events where the police are then investigating him, and the remaining members of the gang are out for blood. So it's very much that kind of a movie. It's twisted, it's sick, it's perverse, it's a bit Tarantino, but very, very Welsh. And you might get that from this clip. We don't have a clip. I just realised we don't have a clip.
We don't have a clip, which is a shame, because I really wanted to see that. We don't have
a clip. It's the one time we don't have a clip.
Oh, what a shame.
I just realised that.
What a shame.
Damn it.
I would like to have seen that. So what, okay, so is it in cinemas now?
It is in cinemas. This is in cinemas, I think, for about 10 days, about a week to 10 days. And this goes to digital at the beginning of July. So it goes around very quickly. This is just a really incredible movie. Like a really dark, sadistic, borderline Coen Brothers movie. Like, it's got a very dark heart. It's got a lot of humor, but it's got a lot of human drama put in it as well. Craig Russell, who plays the lead in it, I think is tremendous. He's absolutely brilliant because it's a very Dexter-like character. You can't help but draw the sort of Dexter comparisons.
I like
but
Dexter.
It's Dexter in a Guy Ritchie movie as if it's been written by the Coen brothers, of all things. And I kind of love that about it, but it has got that grandiose, larger-than-life, fresh, Love Lies Bleeding sensibility to it. And you will never guess where it goes from one minute to the next because it's not a multiplex crowd pleaser. It's not formulaic enough to work in that way. It kind of likes to have its 20-minute bursts and subvert itself. Yeah. And you will never guess one 20-minute bit. So you could literally don't make a cup of coffee whilst you're watching it at home kind of thing, because in the time you're away, like boiling the kettle, the movie will change. It's very much that sort of an affair.
Oh, I like that.
Very well staged, very well performed. I think this is one that will shock, subvert, and very much surprise you, Petrie.
Yeah, I do like the sound. I'm very masculine in my choice of movies, as you know. So,
you are, aren't you?
Yeah, I really am. All the girly movies, I can keep them. I'm not interested. But this...
Liam Neeson movie is more your speed, I feel.
Or anything like that. Shoot 'em up type movies. I love them. Probably not this one. How to Train Your Dragon. I have seen one of these, and it was okay, but...
Well... It's not going to shock, subvert, or surprise you, because if you've seen the original 2009 animated version, you have literally seen this.
So this is a
shot, line for line remake, like every bit.
Literally, it's just a live. What do they call it? A live.
A live action adaptation. Incredibly that. If you've remembered a particularly witty line of dialogue from the 2010, 2011 original, odds are it's in this version because they have changed nothing. So the basic premise, much like the original, is you've got the wayward, like, black sheep son of, you know, the father slash king slash mayor of a Viking town, who in both versions is played by Gerard Butler, incidentally. It's so weird. Like, in animation and live action, still Gerard Butler. The whole Viking community exists to, like, stop the dragons that are ruining their lives. However, it simply turns out they just don't understand dragons, and we come to understand this when said black sheep wayward son bonds with a wounded dragon named Toothless, and they form a bond, and he becomes the first dragon rider. So it's about overcoming prejudice, effectively, but with Vikings.
And dragons.
Indeed, yeah, with Vikings and dragons, but in no way more surprising than it already was 16 years ago. So here's a clip, and stop me if any of this sounds familiar.
Call me boring?
Boring.
But I'm just excited to see some real, live dragons up close. You know, I could do without the permanent injuries and...
Oh, where's the glory in that?
Yeah, it's only fun if you get a scar out of it.
I know, right? Pain. Love it. Oh, great. And let him in.
I guess Daddy pulled some strings, huh?
Aren't you two, like, a little old to be here? Ouch.
What did you say when you said again?
Yeah, touchy subject. I've flunked dragon training a few times.
It was 4 times, actually.
Yeah, and it's called being held back, as in too valuable to let go of.
Well, they've matched the main character to the cartoon well, haven't they? He looks
I don't think he's whiny enough. He's not whiny enough.
No, but he's got the same facial features. I thought I recognised him immediately. Yeah, I think I've seen that. I don't need to waste any more time in my life on that.
It's very much that, to be fair. But to be fair, that in a sense also is kind of its success, because it's not bad at what it's doing.
Right.
Like, it's a straightforward, let's just adapt this thing into live action kind of version, but you do come away and think, because there are so many, like, people my age, well, not even my age, like 10 years younger, who now have kids who are between the ages of 5 and 15, and they themselves have sort of grown up on How to Train Your Dragon. So it would be like, to be honest with you, I don't know what I could put this into in terms of, like, would work for us, Petrie. This would be like if you remade Deliverance, but a child-friendly version, but it was exactly the same. And we know how good it is, so we know we can take our kids and exactly as good. Deliverance is an awful book because that's an adult film. But if you could find E.T. is a better idea. Right. If they did E.T. with a computer animated version now, like, we know for a fact we could take the kids in our lives to see this movie, and if we know they haven't changed a line of dialogue in it or a single plot beat, we would know, hey, we're going to get to enjoy the same movie the same way we did back then, but we know the kids are going to enjoy it for the same reasons we do. And, like, Gerard Butler being the Mufasa of this, and if you get that reference, because, you know, James Earl Jones was the same voice both in the animated and live action versions of Lion King, you kind of feel that through it. Like, this feels like that. And the only bad thing you can say about it is, because it gets all the notes, like the triumphant, like the flying sequences, you get the misty eyes, the father-son stuff, you get the heartstrings pulled, it does all the stuff it needs to do. But the only thing you think is, oh my God, please tell me we're not 5 years away from live action to stick on me, because I can't live with that.
Oh my God, no, don't. Why did you even put that out there?
It'll happen.
Why have you
it
put
will
it?
happen.
It will, of course it will.
Folding money, it happens. 5 years. Folding money, we're going to have Austin Butler with a fake nose.
No, it'll be
in live action.
It'll be Dara O'Brien.
No, too easy and too little makeup needed. Too little makeup. No, it's going to be some 20-year-old guy who doesn't need makeup, who's going to have it put on, and it's going to be CG minions. 5 years max. And we are at that stage, but if it's at this standard, I'm not against it.
Just very quickly, because he happens to be one of my favourite all-time actors. Gary Oldman is now Sir Gary. We've only got a few seconds to talk about this, but he so deserves it.
He not only does he deserve it, just in general, I kind of love the idea that we now, for the very first time, have our very first Sir Commissioner Gordon, which makes, kind of hits me. You look at the movies Gary Oldman has been in, and some of them are immensely messed up. Like he has started some immensely messed up. Fifth Element,
so good. Fifth Element. I mean, come on.
He's great.
And Slow Horses. Right now, Slow Horses is the thing.
I'm not even on that train. I'm still on the Tinker Tailor train with Gary Oldman.
No, I'm Slow Horses all the way. He is genius. He's funny. He's lovely, and he so deserves it. Sir Gary Oldman. Thank you very much indeed, Van. Great to see you. And those are your movies.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Hi there, this is Talk and it is Petrie, and with me in the studio is the former political editor Vincent Moss. Lovely to see you.
Hi Petrie.
Now, before we get into the papers, I want to talk to you about this. I don't know if you saw this report. It was in the Eye today. It was really, really fascinating investigation into an AI tool that the police are in Bedford are now looking at. But but according to my research, 12 forces are now using this Palantir AI software tool, which uses data about individual people's race, their sex life, their health, their political affiliations, their beliefs, their religion, all sorts of information. And it's not just criminals that they're gathering this data on. They're gathering the data on potential victims or witnesses to crimes as well. And there's no real oversight. As far as I know, there's been no discussion with the public as to whether we're prepared to swap privacy for this potential security. What do you make of it?
Well, this is a rather strange trial, I think, because the ones that have been going on that we did know quite a bit about are the facial recognition trials that the Met Police in London and lots of other forces have run. But my understanding of those is they feed in pictures of convicted criminals, convicted paedophiles, convicted rapists who might be on the run. And if their faces come up, the police quickly go and arrest them. This seems to be a very different thing where people aren't convicted and they're just feeding in data without any guardrails, any protection, and the potential for misuse is massive, and it does need I think initially parliamentary and political scrutiny, where they set up some guardrails and established some boundaries. I don't think many people would have a problem of saying, right, let's put all the convicted murderers and serious criminals into a database, and when we know they abscond and we're looking for them in the huge metropolis and other big cities, we can find them, because if they pop up on the cameras. There was one instance where a convicted paedophile popped up actually holding a child's hand that he didn't have permission to be with. Now, those sort of instances I think are fine, but these sort of things where there's not enough scrutiny are a real potential problem. They do need parliamentary scrutiny, but the big problem we've got is every government, UK included, America included, they're so desperate to be partnering with AI companies because they think it's the future, that they're pretty much giving them carte blanche to do what they want, because they're worried that they'll go and relocate somewhere else and all the AI jobs will go somewhere else. And the AI companies are rather playing the governments for that, because they know they can use it to their advantage.
Massive lobbyists as well.
Yeah.
They lobby, they take them out for lunch, they buy them theatre tickets, football matches and things like that as well. This is big business. But you've got a situation here where any of our police services across the country can buy any bit of software that they want to and use it in any way that they want to. There is no... They can buy it from private companies, they can buy it from wherever they like. There isn't a central point that says, right, police services are only allowed to use this AI in this way with these guardrails. They can do... It is the Wild West of AI at the moment. And you mention facial recognition. The biggest users of facial recognition now are private companies who don't... There is no oversight. If they don't like the look of you, they can put you on a block list. You don't even... There's no due process. You don't even get told about it. You will just be stopped every time you go into a shop. It's happened several times already. And there's any authority is voluntary.
Yeah, and that's a problem. The shops using that technology, there should be rules where if you're not a problem or they've captured your face, it should be erased after you've left the shop. Or I can understand why they've got CCTV to stop people nicking stuff in the shops.
CCTV is different to facial recognition.
Yes, that's true. But they're capturing, as you say, usually it should be prolific shoplifters, and that could be circulated, but it seems to be far wider than that. And as you say, it's very much the Wild West. There are no rules, and there should be a complete set of rules on how this should be used. For example, on the AI technology, you face the risk where, for example, they might say a particular postcode is particularly bad for car thieves or burglars. Now, if your car happens to be registered in that postcode, you might find yourself being stopped by the police or stopped by somebody else, a private security, saying, well, it says your area is a bad area, a lot of criminals there, and your cars come up as registered in that area, so you can be completely innocent. And yet the AI says your propensity potentially to be a criminal is higher, therefore you would get stopped, and that gets you into the area of race and all sorts of other potential areas. So it's very, very problematic, and it's clear there need to be more guardrails, more investigation. At the moment, AI, I think the problem is moving so fast that politicians just literally can't keep up with it. And even when they talk about regulating, there's talk in this country of an AI bill, probably a year away, maybe longer. And I think Trump has talked about no regulation for 10 years. So
no oversight whatsoever.
I mean, by then the AI will be running the world, so it'll be too late.
But this is what the AI companies want, of course, because they're making millions. We've already got a Palantir involved in the NHS. And one of the lines that really concerned me was this artificial intelligence is set to improve the performance of cash-strapped public services. What's worth a lot of money at the moment? Data. The DVLA already sells data, already sells our data. We know that. They make pennies on the pound for it, but they sell it and they make a money. So you've got a cash-strapped NHS or a cash-strapped police force or service, or we could make a few quid out of selling this information. That, to me, and they'll go, oh, it's anonymised. It isn't. It really isn't. When I had somebody, I asked somebody who's really clever at this kind of thing, that does it for a job, to look at NHS stuff that was being sold, and I said, can you discover who these people are? He came back to me within 20 minutes and said, it's easy. It's not anonymised.
No, it should be, and it's not. And I think one of the things is we can all agree it's a good thing that if AI is used to look at 1 million scans and tell you you've got the start of something bad happening, a cancer, that is way beyond the eyesight of a specialist, that's all great.
Brilliant.
Where it's not great is if they use all of that data, potentially sell it to a pharmaceuticals company that can then target people who are at risk of a particular illness, monetize that, make a fortune.
A mortgage company.
All sorts of things. So yes, you could find your data, you could find yourself refused for life insurance or home insurance because it says some AI has found out that you've got a particular likelihood of a particular illness, and it's going to say, well, we're not going to cover you. You might find yourself uncoverable. So it's a whole, as you say, I think Wild West is a very good way of describing it. The whole area of AI needs far greater scrutiny, far greater guardrails put in place, and harness the benefits, and yet harness the good things, but mitigate the bad things and make sure that they are controlled. And at the moment, I mean, there's a lot going on in the world, and I think the truth is governments, politicians and others just aren't in a position where A, they've got the time and the skill set to do what they should be doing and put those guardrails in place, but two, they're cozying up to the AI companies and they're not in a position where they want to threaten to regulate them, because the AI companies will say, we don't need to be in England, we don't need to be in the UK, we can go to California. And if California was going to legislate, they'd say, well, we'd go to India, we'd go to China. So it's a real risk that there are pretty, and of course a lot of these companies have got links with social media companies, a lot of them own social media companies. Most people, there's a study out saying most of America now gets its, I think more than half of Americans get their information and news via social media.
Yeah, social media.
So it's an unvirtuous circle where AI controls an awful lot of information.
Yeah, it does. And it does. The thing is that a lot of people say, well, if you've got nothing to hide, you've got nothing to fear, which is, I think, that's a kind of form of brainwashing, gaslighting type of, well, you know, by these companies going, well, if you're innocent, there's nothing you need to worry about, you'll be absolutely fine. But then you see things like Donald Trump signing off to say that doctors, if they don't want to treat veterans that are Democrats or unmarried, where are they going to get that sort of information from? Then they don't have to. Now, all of this is reliant on a government or a system that we trust. And I know, Vincent, that if I did a phone-in about do you trust this government, majority of people would say no. And yet somehow they'll go, oh, well, you know, all that information's out there anyway, I don't have a problem with it. There seems to be a sort of mental block that if you're innocent, if you've got nothing to fear, you will be fine in this creeping authoritarian.
But I think we'll start to see case studies where things emerge, where people who have got nothing to hide and thought it was okay find out that there's subsequently a problem. I mean, the trouble is with the government, it desperately needs to find a way of getting growth, and it thinks that most of the ways that it save money in the civil service and in healthcare and elsewhere is using AI, and getting growth is through AI as well, because it can raise productivity, whether that's in car manufacture and all sorts of other manufacturing technologies. So it has rather bet the farm on AI solving an awful lot of our economic problems, and that's again another reason why it's not super keen to be over scrutinising and over regulating as some of the AI companies would see it, that particular sector at the moment.
AI has already been proven to lie. That was a couple of weeks ago. They found out that they completely lied, fabricated and made up stuff, and it's racist. I mean, the other thing that concerns me about this is, you know, they're saying at the moment, oh, this is a bolt-on to policing. This is to help us police. But what if it becomes, instead of policing, this predictive, I mean, they're talking about predicting who is going to commit a crime. This is what this, I mean, the company Palantir denies that and says it shouldn't be used in that way, but it's already being used in that way. And so you have police officers who just put into a database, this crime has happened, you know, blah, blah, blah. And the AI goes, well, there's your perpetrator right there.
Yeah, especially if it's
so
relying
it's lazy
on
policing.
Well, exactly, especially if it's relying on the prejudices inbuilt of certain police officers, and certain police officers, as we well know in London, have been described in the past as institutionally racist
and misogynistic,
and all those sort of things.
All of that.
So if the AI is being trained on the information gathered by police, then that doesn't necessarily bode well for large parts of the police. I mean, I know it's trying to reform, but there's still institutional and structural problems with large parts of the police force, and the AI to some extent is only as good as the data and the information it's trained on, and if it's being trained on certain aspects of police data, that's not good.
That is really not good. And I mean, the whole idea that they also want us to have an ID card, don't they? There's digital ID, which again will gather. And a lot of people go, well, we're already on the internet now anyway. There's quite a lot of digital stuff. Actually, there really isn't on me. Try and find it. I pay a company to wipe everything, just because I don't see why a marketing company should know what I'm buying or whatever. So they go through it every month and just take me off these things. But it's all in one place. I mean, it's okay if you choose to go and online M&S, right? That's your choice. What you buy there, they will have a record of. But do you necessarily want other supermarkets to have that information and then send you marketing information, or your doctor to have that information and then say, well, Vincent, you're drinking too much alcohol. I noticed that you were buying cigarettes. And this is the creeping...
That's the loyalty cards at supermarkets for you, with the risk of that. And I think the thing with
But they don't share it with the NHS, or they don't share it with your doctor
yet.
But it is possible to do so. So if they want to save money at the NHS, they're going to say to these companies where you do your shopping, and you might buy, a couple of bottles of wine too many a week, and send that to your doctor. And then your doctor then says to you, Vincent, you're drinking too much wine.
Well, it's also the hackers. I mean, I've got an M&S account, now presumably
Somebody
of my information. Now the hackers that's now circulating around the... Yes, exactly. For the right price, I'm sure anybody can have it. So very cheap in my case, but that's circulating. And I was trying to get a new SIM card the other day, and the phone company, I've been with them for 20 years, asked not only for my name, age, address, date of birth, but it was asking for my salary levels and all these sort of things.
What?
And I was thinking, well, you don't need this. I've been with you for 20 years, and the level of information it was gathering and data collecting just for a pretty basic request for a replacement SIM card, where they're asking all sorts of things like salary levels. So there's just everybody wants to get, because they want to market you. I think it's because they want to base your salary and think, this person's not got that much money, let's do them a basic deal. This person's got loads of money, not me, but let's sell them a sort of top of the range
Trump phone.
Yes, exactly.
Trump phone for $47 a month.
Well, there you are. So I just think that whether they're supermarkets, and we've all got to use the loyalty cards now, because it's very expensive in a supermarket if you don't use your particular supermarket's loyalty card, but they've got a huge amount of information on you on those cards. And if they want to share that or monetize that at some point with other people other than themselves, that's going to be very valuable information.
Yeah, it really, really is.
All those chocolate biscuits, all documented in my
documented.
case.
All the bottles of wine went straight to the wine, you'll notice. I just think that's our choice, and as long as it's spread out, it's not as dangerous as when it's all pulled into one place, and all of that information is then available at the click of a button.
Yes.
That's when it's, your political affiliation, what your sex life. I mean, what do they need to know about your sex life? It's so intrusive. And whether you're a trade union member or not.
But if you buy all the databases, and then you can then cross-match that data, and there are organisations already doing that, where they'll buy data sets from different... So you might buy, say a pharmaceutical company, so they know all the medicines that you get, and you cross-match that with other data from a supermarket, and then you cross-match it from somewhere else, and you can build a profile of an individual fairly quickly. So yeah, well, I mean, we're already on that road, and people can try and mitigate that and stop people collecting data on them, but it's a valuable commodity. That's why people, of course, the social media companies let you sign up for free, because what you're giving them is far more valuable than you paying them, because you're telling them all about your lives.
But the other thing is, isn't it, that you've got countries like China who have really honed the use of this information and use it against their civilians. You get social credit. Like I said, at the moment, Donald Trump, talking about Democrats like they're mentally ill and things like that. All it takes is for that to go one step further, and suddenly Democrats are not allowed to leave their city area, or that you then start classifying people by their political affiliation. In China, if you're good to the government and to the whole, then you get extra credits. If you're naughty or you speak out against the Communist Party, they give you slow broadband. They do. Did you know that?
I didn't know that. I hope they don't do that here.
No, well, they give you slow broadband, or they limit your travel, so you can't go, or you can never move to a city because you're not considered smart enough, or you haven't got the right education. So that's taking it, and people go, well, that's the extreme. It's not that far away. We've already had governments here saying, we want these 15-minute cities, right? You know, where you've got everything within 15 minutes. Well, the next step to that is to say, if you go outside of your city area, you pay a fine, or you pay extra money because you've got everything you need there and you can walk around. There's no need for you to drive. There's no need for you to... And it's all of that. We've made it so you don't have to, and then you go, but yeah, but I want to.
Yeah.
And where does that come in? And I can see it. The creep is there. It's happening. Police. I wouldn't trust... If somebody says to me, do you trust the police in London? No. So why would I trust them with my data?
It's very hard because people have all got a story about how they've seen a friend or family member that's been let down by the police, and people just rely on their own experience. I know they are trying to turn that round, but they've got an awful lot of work to do.
They've got a lot of work to do, and then they say to us, trust us with your information. Sorry, I wouldn't trust you with my shopping. So how am I going to trust you with that? Anyway, let's have a look at the Los Angeles Times, the LA Times. Anti-ICE protesters demonstrate amid tear gas at No King's Day. Now, I watched these happening live, these marches, and they were so peaceful. Why is there tear gas? They were so peaceful. There was no need for anybody to be chucking tear gas around. Trump aims to intensify LA sweeps even as ICE vows shift. Agents were told to back off in some Labour sectors, but raids continue in cities, sowing confusion. Well, this was Trump, who was told by his billionaire friends that actually I need the cleaner and the gardener and the factory workers that you're getting rid of, so can we go easy on that? And farmers were saying, well, you've got rid of these farm hands, what are you doing? We've got nobody to replace them with. So he said he was going to back off, and yet he's changed his mind again and said, no, go hard.
It seems to be a very strange thing to be doing. I mean, he thinks the images must work for him, of him looking tough, and that plays very well with his base. But in California, a very democratic area, as you say, they need these people for the sort of hospitality, for farming. I think the latest figures are that about 40% of farm workers in California are undocumented. So
and they've been there 20 years
exactly,
or something, paying tax, not causing trouble.
But he's got this target of upping, I think it is, they're talking about upping the target of ICE officer arrests from immigration arrests from about 650 a day, which was the start of Trump's second term, to 3,000 arrests a day. And the LA Times has got some quite graphic stories about the attempts to arrest pregnant women and the rest of it. And it seems to be fairly sort of random, but he's just determined to get that image. And bear in mind, he sent in the National Guard in an unprecedented, first time it's happened in 65 years, without a governor requesting it. Does that because he wants to look like he's cracking down, knows there's not a huge amount of love for him in LA anyway, because it's, as I say, a largely democratic area.
It's a blue state and a sanctuary city. And he's going after a lot of blue cities, it would appear. But this is Stephen Miller. This is Stephen Miller, I think, who's been encouraging Trump, because he's a nasty little man, Stephen Miller.
But their economies can't survive without this workforce, and it's a different situation in many ways from other areas that have got migrant problems, because of a lot of people who do come to Texas and California largely from Mexico are going there in search of a better life, but want to achieve it through a lot of hard work. And then they work hard and they sort of integrate in society, earn money, put their kids through schools, and most people that I speak to in that part of the world think that their economies wouldn't survive without them. So they're welcome part of the economy.
Is it Nebraska that is due to go bust in 8 weeks? A couple of months, because all of the farm hands and they've all gone.
Well, that's the thing. Even if you're not arrested, you'd be so worried about the risk of arrest that
they're not turning up to work.
Exactly, disappear or.
And you've seen that. I was talking about this yesterday with the football, the Club World Cup at the moment. Is you've got games that are going on with like Mexico and things like that, and nobody's going to watch the football because ICE are at the football stadia.
Yeah.
And so you've got people who might want to go and watch Mexico play, but they're not going to go in case, even if they're legal, they're not going to go to go and watch it in case they get swept up in the ice raids that are happening at football matches.
Yeah, and it creates such an unpleasant and untrusting environment and climate, because many Californians will have friends who are Mexicans. They'll be at school with each other's children, and they'll find this a deeply unpleasant, deeply uncomfortable environment. But it's a promise that Trump said he would do before the election, and he's living up to his promise to carry it out.
These officials wearing masks and everything, a lot of people suspecting that they are people that perhaps took part in the January 6th insurrection. Painful COVID subvariant on the rise in California, but we've of course got the health secretary who has just said, well, I don't even want to go there. I mean, Kennedy, I mean, he's just said vaccines, and he's got all these vaccine deniers working for him now. There's no adults in the room. Painful COVID subvariant on the rise in California. I wouldn't be surprised, and it'll be...
No, called razor blade throat, which doesn't sound like a nice thing to catch.
No, it really doesn't. And a doctor who supplied ketamine to Matthew Perry will plead guilty. Very sad. I still can't believe he's gone. All right, we're going to take a quick break. Back in a sec.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Hello there, this is Talk, and it's Petrie here, and with me, Vincent Moss, former political editor. The Times newspaper, Vincent, Channel migrant crisis deepens as French hand out life jackets.
Yeah, well, it's another latest twist in the migrant crisis, which seems to be getting worse. And the Times is reporting how French police, who we know, although this is supposed to be changing, once migrants are in the water, they don't pursue them to the boats, which is why the new tactic is taxi boats come around, migrants wade out, they get onto the boats and off they go. But the French authorities have now apparently been seen giving out life jackets, which is making it easier for them to reach the boats. And the Times is saying that the newcomers have taken the total to have arrived in the UK this year to nearly 17,000, up nearly 50% on the same period last year, and nearly 40,000 migrants have arrived since Keir Starmer became Prime Minister. So obviously with the calmer summer weather's about to peak, it looks as though that situation is getting worse and worse. And despite all the promises from France to review legislation on police intervention, the French authorities, according to the Times, do not intervene once boats are afloat, and instead follow them in case they get into distress.
It is an absolute mess. It's a mess, and even the kindest heart in the world would say this cannot go on. This is now reached crisis point. This is ridiculous. It is absolutely ridiculous. And all Keir Starmer's go, we'll smash the gangs. Like, what are you talking about? Clearly that's not working.
No, it hasn't. And levels are sometimes, on the bad days, are 900 to 1,000 people a day. So the amount of money that's costing taxpayers in hotels and accommodation and food is an awfully big expense.
And who was it that was on, was it some news programme the other day? I said, oh, they're largely women and children.
I think that was a government minister.
It was a government minister.
Might have been the chief, the Treasury Chief Secretary, number 2 in the Treasury. But he's denied and said that was clipped wrong, and that he was talking about one particular vessel, I think, is his defence. But we do know from most vessels they tend to mainly be young men.
Yeah. What about this Trump? We won't kill the Ayatollah for now. It's illegal for a state to murder the head of another state. It is illegal. It's not, I'm sure that's why it doesn't happen more often, right? If you're going to do it, don't you keep quiet?
Well, you'd have thought so, but I think that the Trump thing is always to make threats and hope that they lead to actions that means he doesn't have to do what he's going to say. But if you'd have written a few years ago a film saying that the President of the United States would be putting everything he planned to do and start wars and threaten to kill foreign leaders on Truth Social, his social media network, nobody would have believed you. And yet here he is, posting messages on Truth Social saying he wants unconditional surrender, saying that he could kill the leader of Iran if he wanted to, but he's not going to do it yet, but also significantly revealing, with the use of the word we, which talks about we control the skies over Iran, that they are working closely in conjunction with Israel against Iran. And of course the next significant thing is, will America actually intervene and let those B-2 bombers go over there with the bunker-busting bombs, which will be able to reach the enriched remaining stock?
They're sending over those B-2s, F-35s and all of that now. Right now there's a massive movement of equipment and troops heading towards the Middle East. And this is a man who said that if Kamala won, then she would take us into World War III.
And he promised no wars, America first, and he wouldn't get involved in all those conflicts. So it's a challenge for him, and it's already split the Republicans. Some of them are reminding him of that pre-election pledge that he wouldn't get involved in overseas wars. I think one Republican senator was quoted as saying, this is Iran's war. So if America does start using its warplanes to bust those bunkers where the enriched uranium that's needed for nuclear weapons is held, then that will really does risk.
Well, there's a US ship heading that way as well at the moment, and all it takes is for Iran, which is the biggest holder of ballistic missiles and missiles in the region, to sink that. And then, and even if that's not deliberate, or it is deliberate, mishaps happen. This is a very, very, very dangerous point.
It is, and it's the last throw of the dice for a regime that is already very unpopular with large swathes of the Iranian population. And if it does double down and threaten the Straits of Hormuz and that vital shipping lane, then that could send already sort of fragile world economies into sort of further
Well, that's
freefall.
their backup plan, isn't it? That's the Ayatollah's backup plan, because if he squeezes that riverway, with the West is stuffed. I mean, we're in big trouble. And that apparently is his, excuse the pun, his nuclear option is to squeeze that strait.
And it's getting to the point where he has nothing to lose in many respects.
Exactly.
So why would he not do that?
Why would he not do
it? If his regime is tottering on the sort of brink of a precipice, why would he not consider that option?
Why would he not? Absolutely. And this one, women will no longer be prosecuted for having late-term abortion after a landmark vote by MPs. The biggest change to abortion laws in half a century passed with a majority of 242 and a free vote backed by 2 cabinet ministers. There were 2 different rules put forward, weren't there? 2 different ideas put forward, but
and this is the less sweeping one of them. The one put forward which didn't succeed by Labour backbencher Stella Creasy would have gone further, and it may well be that returns as a private member's bill. But this is the biggest shake-up in, I think it's 65 years, and it does effectively decriminalise abortion for pregnant women, and will become law in months, apparently, according to the Times, after 379 MPs backed an amendment to the Crime and Policing Bill. So
I mean,
big change.
It's such an interesting thing, because people go, oh, that's shocking, but women at 24 weeks are not choosing to go for an abortion. If there is a situation that comes up where there's a miscarriage, for example, those women are interviewed. You have a miscarriage and the police are there going, did you abort it? It's so wrong. You've already just lost your child, and you're being persecuted by the police. And there will be other reasons why women will have, usually for health reasons of the woman or of the child. Nobody's choosing. Nobody's going, oh, I know what I'll do. You know, and the idea that women should be criminalised for that has always felt completely wrong.
Absolutely. And although this move, if I remember it rightly, doesn't actually give doctors immunity from prosecution, they could still be prosecuted if they go for outside the 24-week term.
But it has there are circumstances where women have lost their babies and been persecuted, which is completely
almost all the circumstances will be distressing and upsetting. And probably, I was wary being a man and wading into this debate, because it seems to me it's for women to decide, but there's an awful lot of men who do have a view on this, and it seems to me that some of them should shut up on it.
Shut up and do one. And I wish I could use stronger language, but I'm not allowed to. Let's take a break. Back in a sec.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Hello there, this is Talk and it's Petrie with you. With me is Vincent Moss, going through the papers for Wednesday. The Daily Mail, US poised to join Iran war. Trump sends jets and demands regime's unconditional surrender. He says he knows where the Ayatollah is, but won't kill him for now. Now this is Mossad, who have carried out the beginnings of this attack on Iran. I mean, not glorifying war at all, but I was saying this yesterday, they have militarily done an incredible job. In terms of they know the pinpoint accuracy, live information as to where these leaders are. I don't know how, but these are the same people who orchestrated the pager attack that we saw. And apparently Israel is saying, we've got more tricks that will make the pager incident look like a child's game. So what Mossad has been up to in Iran is truly extraordinary.
Yes,
militarily.
They've clearly had agents there for many years and decades potentially, and they know the movements of lots of senior people, whether that's nuclear scientists to military personnel, and they seem to be able to take them out at will, which is what makes the threat from President Trump about knowing exactly where the Ayatollah is but won't kill him for now a really ominous threat, because
it must
it's probably
be real.
true.
It's true. Yeah. They've tagged him, somehow I don't know what they've done, but extraordinary. The worry is, of course, with Donald Trump, he's feeling a little humiliated by his big beautiful parade. His big beautiful bill hasn't gone through, and I think that at the G7 meeting as well, he was a bit of a pariah. Because that was about money, right? And he stuffed it for everybody because of the tariffs. So I don't think he was very popular. I think that's why he left. He just didn't like it being there. It's like me when I go to a party. I was going, "Now, why am I here?"
And apparently it's a 3-star hotel, which wouldn't have suited him either.
No,
So
it wouldn't have been gold.
No.
So a lot of people are suggesting that this is why he's playing the big man now with Iran, and because he has been humiliated. He's really across the globe. I mean, the Russians, the North Koreans, the Chinese, they've all been putting out videos of his parade, which was embarrassing, and no disrespect to the American military, who I know for a fact are superb, but it was a shambles. And on the same day of trooping, the colour and the way we do it, it's just embarrassing. I think that's what he expected, but he didn't get. So the worry is that he's reeling from being embarrassed globally and needs to prove himself. And I think that, to me, is the worry here with Iran, that he might do something for not the right reasons.
Yeah, exactly. We're all waiting to find out what the next step will be, and we don't know. And it could be everything from using American military planes to support the Israelis, to doing nothing and hoping that the regime capitulates.
Just flying around the skies, yeah.
So we just don't know.
I mean, the other concern is, of course, that there will be some kind of action against Americans on American soil.
Yes.
In the form of a terror attack of some kind.
Yes.
Because of this involvement.
And that must be a risk, and that's what they're worried about. American personnel, probably those at most risk are those in the region, but it could be anywhere. And the same goes potentially, and that threat's already been issued by Iran to UK personnel and those of potentially France and other EU countries as well.
I mean, if you look at Iran and the Chagos Islands, it's a direct line. There's nothing in between them. I mean, there's distance in between them, but that's it. And if you look at some of the ballistic missiles that Iran has, they can certainly make that distance and more.
Yes, and they have actually some of those have got through the Israeli defence shield and have been causing damage in Israel.
Yeah. Kim Woodburn has died. Do you know who she is?
I do. I can't say I ever watched the programme in great. I never seemed to really see the programme, but she was one of the two famous. You're going to ask me who the other one?
Aggie.
That's
Aggie
right.
and Kim, wasn't it?
Yeah, it always made me a little bit queasy to watch the programme. They were always finding lots of filth in people's houses, weren't they?
Yeah, but she was a real character, Kim Woodburn. Not to everybody's taste, but she has now died. So bless her. She was a character.
She was.
Let's put it that way. Not to everybody's taste, like I said. The Guardian, a minister to criticise Tory waste over HS2. It's about time.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of money was wasted, and I think the government's going to go on the offensive and say we wasted a lot of money, but it doesn't tell us anything we didn't already know.
Yeah. Exactly. And this awful story here, the charity boss found fatally stabbed after a gas explosion. It makes you wonder whether the explosion was therefore an attempt to cover up the stabbing.
It does sound like that, doesn't it? It sounds like a fairly horrendous story, because she was found, as you say, stabbed. I think a neighbour or police found her, but there'd been a gas explosion as well, so it did sound like an attempt, presumably to, I would imagine, start a fire potentially to
get rid of the evidence.
Cover tracks. Yeah.
The thing is, when you play with fire and explosions, it means you have literally no respect for any life, because fires go out of control. I think anybody who sets a fire, even if nobody dies, because you don't know where a fire's going to go. Only a fire knows that. And it's the same with explosions. That explosion could have killed next door neighbours, it could have taken out other houses. I mean, it's just...
and she worked for a charity as well, and well regarded and liked locally, so terrible
it's always
story.
the nice people, isn't it? The Eye, again, Trump threatens Supreme Leader of Iran but won't kill him for now. Now, if the Ayatollah ends up dead, there's got questions to be asked of a state-sanctioned... I mean, nobody told him you can't do that.
No, exactly, and it's exactly the thing that we criticise other countries for doing. So, I mean, I would imagine they hope that, I'm not sure this would necessarily happen, but the Iranian people overthrow their leader. That's what they would hope. That
is the hope. And of course, all the propaganda machinery has been removed, hasn't it, from around the television and the radio. The Metro, health warning as temperatures head for a record. 33 degrees heat wave in flaming June. Do you like the heat?
Not that much. I mean, I like it when it's warm, but 33 degrees, which is the prediction for Sunday in the UK, is a lot. I mean, I think the record, it says, was in Southampton in 1976, June, when it got to 35.6 degrees in Southampton. So it's not going to be far off that, but the prediction for the weekend is, I mean, I don't want it to hot in the day, but it's when it's hot at night, isn't it, and you can't get to sleep, that's when it's a bit sweaty,
it's absolutely miserable. I mean, I'm still old money, to be honest with you. I don't really understand these temperatures. It's 91 degrees to me.
The only one I can seem to remember isn't 28.82 or something like that.
Yeah, something like that. Yeah, if you switch it.
So that's
but I have my weather app is switched to Fahrenheit.
Ah, that's good. I think mine might be as well.
I mean, I know that 33 is high, but I don't quite understand how high. And for those of you who own dogs, any temperature that begins with a 3 is dangerous.
Yeah.
It is dangerous for dogs. It can kill them. They can have heat stroke. Do not take them outside. And other temperatures, you have to take them out. Like, you know, anything from 28 upwards to that 30 mark. You have to be incredibly careful with them, especially older dogs or younger dogs, or dogs with short noses. Don't take them out in this weather. But anything beginning with a 3 it can kill them.
Yeah.
Just as simple as that. Just don't do it. Just don't take them out.
And leave them in cars, especially.
Oh, I would have those people. I can't say what I do to them, but anyway, the FT. Trump calls for Iran's surrender and leaves way open to US role in conflict. You see, a surrender. It would make this complete waste. This is what, and I think that Trump and Netanyahu know this. They would make this a waste of time. It can't be a surrender. It has to either be overthrown. Iran has to either be overthrown, or every single possibility of Iran ever being able to enrich uranium again. And they've got bunkers, they've got all sorts of people, they've got young people who they've been training up in nuclear warfare. They can just recreate it.
Well,
so surrender is not what they want.
No, because they can potentially move these stockpiles. They've got bunkers, as you say, all over the place potentially, and they've been training generations of scientists. So it's no good killing them, because there are others who are presumably equally skilled. So yeah, it does need to find a way of ending the risk that's posed by a potential nuclear weapon that Iran may or may not have. They deny they have it, and there's conflicting advice even in the West about how advanced they were in
well, Israel has been saying they're 2 weeks away for 10 years.
Yes. And it's in their interest to say that, obviously. So we don't know. The truth is we don't know. And most of the best advice seems to be conflicting. Some people who are supposed to be neutral say that they're very close to being able to weaponise this nuclear, matter, and others say they're still a long way off.
Well, they haven't really let observers go in, have they, to check that out either, which is a real problem. But it was when Trump as well said, I don't want to cease. I want more than a ceasefire, and I don't think that either Israel or America want a ceasefire or a surrender. I think they want annihilation.
Yeah.
That for me, that is the language that
certainly
is being used.
Netanyahu and Israel definitely.
And also, it would make it, like I said, it would make it absolutely of no value. All of this would mean nothing, because in 5 years' time they'll be back up and running. So, and they're going to leave the nuclear I can't say that word, proliferation
Neither can
treaty. Right, let's take a break. We'll be back in a sec.
across the UK. On DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Hello there, this is Talk, and it is Petrie here with you and with me, Vincent Moss, former political editor. We're going through the papers. The Daily Star, I got an interesting front page. Are you failing? Which is a pun on Are You Sailing? With Rod Stewart. And I don't want to talk about it, is obviously Donald Trump. And do you think I'm angry? Somebody's had a bit of fun with this, haven't they? On the Daily Star. This is a story about how Sir Rod Stewart says that his ex-pal didn't treat women well and blasts him on Iran. Can't imagine Rod Stewart getting involved talking about Iran.
No, it doesn't say where he's made these comments. But,
no.
Yeah, and also I always think you did very well remembering all those Rod Stewart songs. That
I was an absolute Rod Stewart.
They're from quite a long time ago.
I know, so am I. But I was absolutely in love with Rod Stewart. I mean, my best friend Claire and I, we used to just do nothing but listen to Rod Stewart. So yeah, of course I know them.
And he's a concerned citizen now. He spends a lot of his time, well, some of his time, filling in potholes, doesn't he? So, as you were talking about earlier, he's out there filling in the potholes.
He is, but underneath it says, Orange Man Baby has changed since becoming president. So Rod Stewart, I think, was a supporter of Donald Trump, wasn't he? Did he vote for him? I don't know. Anyway, not vote for him because he's not over there, but I think he was a big supporter. The Daily Telegraph, Trump poised to join war on Iran. Oh God. Starmer delays HS2 after 37 billions of... didn't they do this ages ago?
Well, I think there's a report coming out saying that it's now going to be no longer be completed by 2033, and there'll be a delay of at least 2 years, which the transport sector is going to announce. And cost billions more because of it. Ridiculous. I mean, it was always going to cost more. These projects always seem to, and of course, it's now only the sort of southern leg to Birmingham, not the full HS2 up to the north, which is what people really needed and wanted, I think. So just another case. And there's also, of course, the fact there's no really any money left, so any cost overruns means that government's hands are pretty much tied because there's not enough cash in the pot. No, there really isn't, until we see the budget and where that's going to be filled up. Foreigners behind a quarter of sex attacks. This obviously comes close on the heels of what we saw with the Home Secretary, Yvette Cooper, and talking about the Baroness's report on grooming gangs. And I think yesterday the papers were saying that there was asylum seekers now and foreign nationals are being looked at as being involved in more of those grooming gangs. But this is now just saying foreigners behind a quarter of sex attacks. Yes, I mean, the Telegraph's referring to Freedom of Information requests show that 26% of 1,453 sex assault convictions on women last year were accounted for by foreign nationals, and a further 8% were committed by offenders of unknown nationalities. So that's a very high proportion. 1 in 4 sex crimes against women committed by we're still looking foreign nationals. 3 in 4 committed by Brits. Yes, I suppose you'd have to work out what the percentage of the population is to see what the accurate figures are, because I think also when they talk about potentially migrants committing sex crimes, well, because most of those were of a certain demographic, 18 to say 40 or whatever, they are going to be a higher proportion of those who are more likely to be offenders, because that's the nature of people who commit crime. They tend to be of a certain age. That's true. And once you spread it out from sort of 18 to 80, you probably don't get that many geriatric offenders. Not. Maybe you might do, but but yeah, those are the worrying numbers there. Great picture though on the front of the Telegraph of racegoers showing off their fancy headwear on a blisteringly hot opening day of Royal Ascot. The event was attended by the King and Queen, who suffered watching their horse reaching high finish in 9th place. But yeah, I was just saying to you in the break that they're not going to be able to go ahead with the racing in those temperatures. Well, I think they'll be under pressure too, but if it's 33 degrees, that's going to be very, very hot, and that does pose a risk, doesn't it?
The horses will be having heart attacks and strokes. It's just, that's too much, it's too hot. The Sun newspaper for Wednesday, Trump's Armada, US war fleet bolstered in UK and Europe. We won't kill Iran leader for now. So yeah, a lot of these aircraft and things, of course, have been held in the UK. There's a lot in Germany as well, with the Ramstein air base there, and in Saudi Arabia, of course, they've got a load of planes there as well. So they're not having to come from very far. They're not having to come from America.
No, but it does potentially drag Britain into the conflict, because Iran can see us as, if not being directly involved, being supportive by even allowing, as we've done obviously for decades, Americans to use air bases in Suffolk and other places in the UK to.
Well, it makes them targets.
Yeah, it does. It does. So, and it highlights that. That's what the Sun's highlighting, is the fact that it's a US jet leaving the UK on Tuesday.
Yeah. Trump mobilised a vast armada of US battleships and warplanes towards Iran as the two countries last night stood on the brink of war. US President again threatened, he knew where the leader was hiding. So, yeah, the Ayatollah has fled after a wipeout of his military. And that's what leaders do. They all cause the wars, and then they're the ones with the bunkers.
Yeah, and they do usually have to flee, because sticking around doesn't tend to end very well for them. So they tend
look
to
at Syria. No.
Yeah, yeah.
Yes. I mean, that's the latest one, isn't it? And the Daily Mirror, claiming to be a #1 paper for Royal Ascot. Grooming victims plea. This is a follow-on story from yesterday.
Yes, and terrible event, and what a lot of the victims were saying yesterday when they were giving interviews was how a lot of them have heard all this before about inquiries and justice, and they've not seen a lot of action. So there is big pressure on the government and the Home Secretary and the Prime Minister to make sure that the promised inquiry goes ahead as quickly as possible, but probably won't report for 3 years, and that more perpetrators are brought to justice. Well,
I mean, there's the whole thing is the delays of these inquiries, and Labour finally. This isn't the deepest inquiry that we can possibly have. The public inquiries are the best and most expensive and the deepest. This is them really marking their own homework to a degree, and a lot of people will not be satisfied with that.
No, they won't.
But why the reluctance, do you think?
I think because they felt that there was already 20 recommendations from the previous inquiry that hadn't been enacted. Excuse me, and there's political risk, because if the outcome hadn't been what the survivors had wanted, that would have been a problem for the government in itself. But there was so much pressure that the government really had no option other than to sort of bow to Louise Casey's request that they hold a new full inquiry.
What do you think of the way that Trump has Trump is on my brain, that Keir Starmer has handled this whole situation? Because it wasn't that long ago that he was suggesting that anybody who wanted an inquiry into particularly the Rotherham and Oldham and the gangs up there, that you were playing to the far right. And now he's flip-flopped again and said, well, no, actually the report was compelling. But he must have known about this as QC at the time.
Yeah, it's a strange one, isn't it? Because he can't win, really, because we like it sometimes when people listen and change their minds, and he appears to be saying he listened, he read the report, he did have one view, he's seen it now, and he thinks there's a compelling case for it. So, and not the first time he's done it. I personally like politicians who, when they think the evidence has changed, change their minds. But there is, as you rightly say, that as former Director of Public Prosecutions, he would have known a lot of this at the time.
It's hard to believe he needed to wait to see this report. And why didn't he just say that? Look, my mind isn't made up yet. I need to wait till I see this report, instead of saying something stupid like you're far right if you want a report.
Yes, he may well regret saying that and linking it all to the far right.
But it's all right, because he can pick up Donald Trump's papers for him.
Yes, well, somebody has to. Yeah.
Vincent Moss, thank you very much.
Pleasure.
Indeed. Right, coming up, it's just you and me, or is it? Are we being watched? AI is now being used by police forces across this country in a way that I think will worry you. And it is being used now, and if you live in Bedford particularly as well, it's they're trialling some out there, although there are 12 services, forces that are using it at the moment, where AI will gather information about you, such as your race, your politics, your sex life, your health. And it's not just criminals, no, it's potential witnesses and victims too that are having this built of them. So these AI databases now coming to a town near you. I'd love to hear what you think about it. And do you trust the police with this information? Give me a call. Details next.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
And a very good morning to you. It is Wednesday, the 18th of June. I can't believe how quickly this year is going. So what I want to talk to you about this morning is how comfortable or confident you are with databases and all of your information being stored in one potential place. Let me tell you why. Police are using a controversial AI tool that looks at people's sex lives and beliefs, amongst other things. Your beliefs and your religion and your race. And it's all held on a database. Senior MPs and privacy campaigners have expressed alarm at the deployment of Palantir's AI-powered crime-fighting software with access to sensitive personal information. British police forces have signed contracts with a controversial US tech giant to buy AI-powered software that uses data about an individual's race, their sex life, health and political beliefs, amongst other things. An internal police memo obtained by the Eye paper, this was a really good investigation done in the Eye, says that confirms an intention to nationally apply the Nectar intelligence system currently deployed as a pilot by the Bedfordshire Police. If you live in Bedford, were you told about this? Did you know about this? Should you know about this? Yes. Absolutely. And the thing is, that all of these police services that are using these AI tools, they can buy whichever tool they want from any company they want and deploy it how they want. There is no oversight. Let me say that again. There is no oversight. Nobody's checking to see if they're doing the right thing. Nobody's making sure that your data is secure. Nobody. And this isn't just criminals. If you're thinking, oh, well, it's just the criminals, I don't need to worry about that. If you're a witness to a crime, they'll build the same profile. If you're a victim of a crime, oh yeah, they will build a profile of you. They say that this is going to help them speed up the process. But when you live in a world where cash is getting lower and crime is getting higher, and you have a tool like this, what makes you think they're not going to use it in a way that we don't approve of, to profile in that way? Computer says it was him. He did it. And then you have to prove your innocence. Now, in case you weren't aware, in this country, the police have to prove our guilt. They have to have a reason to come and question you. They have to have a reason to arrest you. Not just because the computer told them that Joe Smith is likely to be the perpetrator in this case. That is not grounds for arrest. That is not investigation. That is not evidence. And yet, if this is, and by the way, this is also potentially going to be used as future crimes, that you might commit a crime. A profile that says that you might become a criminal. This isn't science fiction anymore. This is for real. And all of this is going on without us being told. We don't know what the police have got. We don't know what they're holding. And also cash-strapped as well. What if they start to sell your data? Oh, it's anonymised. Don't worry about that. It absolutely isn't. Not enough. When the NHS was talking about selling your information, it'll be anonymised. Like I was saying to Vincent earlier on, I actually had a friend of mine who does this for a living, and I said, can you go and check and see if this is anonymised or not? 20 minutes. I thought it'd be a few hours. 20 minutes later, he came back and said, it's absolutely not anonymised. I've just got 6 people here that I've been able to find out where they live, their address, their names, date of birth, everything about them. 20 minutes, 6 people. The NHS has got this system as well. Palantir. And we know the NHS is broke. And we do know that there are insurance companies and American health companies that would love our NHS data. Anonymised, of course. Does this worry you? Now, I guess a lot of you will be thinking, well, if I've got nothing to hide, I've got nothing to fear. Literally, I'm not a criminal, so they can have as much data on me as they like. It's not a problem. Don't care. I'm not interested. But all of that depends on whether you've got a government you can trust. And I know that if I was doing a phone-in right now about do you trust this Labour government, your answer would be almost entirely a resounding no. And if I were to do a phone-in on do you trust the police, I'm guessing that the majority of you would come back with a no. And yet, you're kind of okay about them having all this information on you in one place. Your sex life, your beliefs, your political affiliations, whether you're a trade union member or not. You're happy for them to have that. And what if we get a different government? A government that actually does want to apply more control. This is all about control, by the way. None of this is about your security, none of it. It's a lie that we're told to make us complicit. CCTV. Gone up thousands of % in many different parts of the country in a year, 2 years. We were told that the first time this was used was in London on a street that was supposed to be checking for car thieves. It will never go out there. They said it'll only be there. It won't spread. We'll only use it there. It's only on that one street because there's lots of cars being nicked. And then there was another one, and another one, and another one. Now there are thousands all over the country. Do you feel safer? Our security, the idea of security, is being sold to us for very little return. Give me a call. Do you trust the police building these databases on not just criminals, potential criminals, witnesses, victims, sort of anyone they fancy, really? And there's nothing we can do about it. There's nobody overseeing this. Let that sink in. They can do what they like with it. 0344 499 1000, and you can also message me, put the word talk and then your message to 87222. I've got some examples of issues as well with facial recognition that I'll give you a little bit later. Caroline is in London. Hello, Caroline.
Good morning, Petrie. How are you?
I'm very well indeed. How are you?
Oh, I'm not really that great, to be honest.
Is that this story that's done it?
Well, it's just one of many.
Yeah.
I'm not quite sure where to start. I mean, I've been following stuff like this for quite a while, and everything that I found out through various means, I don't know, 4 years ago, it's all come true. From my perspective, we are already in a digital prison. They have total control over us. There is no law here. The people that will get away with it will be the criminals and the illegal immigrants, because they're getting away with it now. I mean, they're coming here with no passports. I mean, it's abhorrent what's happening, and I don't know how we stop it. And it made me think. I went to see the ABBA thing, you know, the ABBA musical, where they're not the real ABBA, but they look like real ABBA on the stage.
Yeah, okay.
And when I got there, who I was...
The ABBA experience with the avatars, the AI avatars, yeah.
And they came on stage, or supposedly, and everyone was clapping, and I just thought, this is weird, I can't clap. What am I clapping at? And then we realised that if they can make us believe that ABBA are on that stage of what they look like in the 70s, and then what they look like in the 2000s, they could do that with any of us, which is what you're talking about.
Yeah.
And no, I don't trust the police. I think that all governments for the last 40, we've been lied to left, right and centre. The corruption in the council, I mean, the council tax for a start is pure mafia money. It doesn't go anywhere where we're told. We're just completely being lied to. And I personally think the biggest enemy we've got is the British people, because there's 70 million of us, and if 5% of us said no, we're not buying this, and not in secret, just we're not doing this, you know, that could bring this whole thing down. Yeah, it would.
That's the magic. It's actually 3.5% is the magic number. But yeah, 5%. If we just stood up, but we've been gaslit, Caroline, into believing that selling our privacy makes us safer, and it doesn't.
Well, I think there are a lot of people that are on my page and your page, but everyone's doing it in secret because for obvious reasons, or talks about it in secret. And my biggest dream is that someone well known who's got total and utter conviction and courage stands up and says, I'm starting a group. If you want to join, this is what we're doing. No to this, no to that, no to this. But because it's in secret, we don't know how many people are aware of it. And then how do we stop it? If there's a group here, a group there, a group here, how do we stop it? And, you know, I've got an EU passport, which I thought was a Get Out clause, but, you know, Europe is worse than here. That's the biggest corruption on the planet. Where can we go? Where can we go? You know, I'm not in my 20s. I want to have the next part of my life feeling free and not looking over my shoulder. I mean, I've got nothing to hide in terms of I'm not a criminal, but that doesn't mean anything.
No, and what that should do, when people say that to me, is give you the right to be private, to be a private citizen. But you see, Caroline, this is the other thing, that the generations behind us have already given up their freedom.
Yeah.
They've already given up their privacy because they've put their whole lives, they've been groomed, to use the modern parlance. They've been groomed into giving all of every bit of themselves to social media, to, you know, you see kids in their, not kids but anymore, but in their 20s going for jobs and being refused because they said something stupid when they were 15, right? So all of these things, they've been putting all this stuff out online, on you know, probably not Facebook, but you know what I mean. All of these social media channels that they use. So what's a little bit more privacy gone? They've already sold their privacy.
But they've already been brainwashing us. Brainwashing us with climate change, with you know, basically everything. They're just brainwashing it. Okay, way before this. Well, I can't even call this a government, to be honest. I don't know what I can't say on air what I feel about this government, but you know, not much different before. You know, this has been going on for 40 years. All this stuff, whether it's the grooming gangs, whether it's being lied to, whether it's our tax, where our tax goes. You know, the only people in this country now that are winning are civil servants, politicians, and judges and people higher up who go into that. People in those services, as far as I'm concerned, they're legal criminals. I mean, look what Sama did when he got in, taking all those free gifts, don't pay their tax properly, lie about, you know, Angela Rayner about selling her property. I mean, there's no law for them. They can just do what they want when they want.
Yeah, there's definitely an us and them. There's definitely an us and them, and the us is most of us, and the them is those who to whom the law really is an inconvenience at best. You know, the very rich, the very powerful, they don't care. They don't care about us.
But my worry is that all this stuff happening in Ireland is going to move to the UK, and I believe, and I really want to be wrong, but I think the government are pushing us. They want total disorder, because then what they're going to do, this stupid war in Russia, which is a joke, it's just to make the rich richer, and it's then a good excuse to say, right, things are not safe with cyber security, we're going to close the banks, we're not having cash anymore, we're going to bring a digital war, and then our lives are over. I mean, I don't know how we will live.
We have to absolutely fight digital money. It's not the same. I don't know. I don't know.
I won't go into any restaurant or any shop if they don't take cash. I walk out.
That's different to digital money. What we're doing at the moment in paying, but digital money is literally then we have no control over our finances. We saw it in Canada.
Do we do that? How do we fight it?
Do you know what? I don't know. I mean, a lot of my friends for years, decades, have thought that I was a bit odd and a bit paranoid. And now they're going, oh, actually, you weren't wrong. Because I've been saying that all of this was coming, and that we should be against it. We absolutely should be against it. But too many people believe that if you're innocent, you're fine. And that is not true.
Well, I think critical thinking for the majority of people is gone. I don't know whether it's...
Yeah, they don't want us to have critical thinking.
I don't know if it's a COVID vaccine or what it is, but when I sometimes meet
I don't think it's that, but I think it's just basic stupidity and people not being interested enough to ask the right questions.
But that's what I mean about they're our biggest enemy, because we could win everything if 3-4% of the population said no.
If we actually applied critical thinking and stepped outside and went, actually, do I trust a government with this information? Most people would say, absolutely not. Wouldn't trust them with my shopping. Right?
Yeah, I mean, you know, I talk to people, I've spoken to friends about the chemtrails, all the stuff they're putting all over, dropping, God knows what they're dropping over. And
I don't buy that conspiracy. I just have to be honest with you. I don't buy that. I don't buy the chemtrails. You know, people are saying that flu is spread by chemtrails.
No. But the chemtrails, honestly, Petrie, honestly, there was a very, I can't remember his name, a very well-known scientist. And basically, if you go in your car, every so often, there's this stuff on your car. It's not just normal dirt. And he took it to a laboratory. I wish I could remember the name, because I'd love you to look into it and you know, go from there. There's no way. Today I was looking in the sky. There were zigzags all over the place in the sky. They're not planes. They're not normal, you know, planes we get on to go on holiday. Basically, I don't know what is going on anymore, but everything is to get somewhere. I'm not quite sure, but total control of us. They want total control, and I don't understand what. Then what? So they've got total control. Then what?
Well, then we become slaves to the autocracy.
Well, we already are slaves. We were born as slaves.
But we have a little bit too much freedom. We demand things like pay and conditions and things like that, and I think, you know, they want us just to be little ants to build their fortunes. I don't know why. They've already got enough money. I mean, they're never going to spend it in their complete lifetimes. Good to speak to you, Caroline. I'm going to take a quick break, but I will be back in just a moment.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Hello, this is Talk, and it's Petrie here with you until 1 o'clock, and we're talking about this controversial AI tool that British police forces are signed contracts to use, and it gathers data about an individual's race, sex life, health, why? Political beliefs and affiliations. I mean, all of these things are just like. Anyway, it's been trialled in Bedford, and the people of Bedford have not been told about it, and they should have been. We should all know when this level of intrusion is happening into our lives. And it's not just criminals. It's not just criminals. It's witnesses, victims, probably anybody that wanders into a police station, to be fair, or wanders past one. And apropos of what Caroline and I were talking about, this is the sort of the very rich and the corruption, and they're the people who benefit from this. Donald Trump is just signing in his big ugly bill, he wants to sign in that AI will be untouched, unmonitored, no oversight on AI for 10 years. No oversight at all. So these AI companies can do what the hell they like with it. We already know that AI is racist, can be racist. We already know that it lies. We already know all of these things about AI. And then they don't want to oversee it. They want to let these companies just go where they want with it. And the reason is because of lobbying. These companies, Peter Thiel, the guy who owns Palantir, he comes from PayPal, that's how he made his money. And he's a great pal of Donald Trump's, and he doesn't want any oversight on what he's doing with AI. Don't want it. Of course he doesn't. Nobody does. They don't want oversight. They want to do what they like with it. So the, you know, our American ambassador, Peter Mandelson. He has worked with Global Counsel, which is a lobbying firm that Palantir, have worked with Global Counsel, the lobbying firm that Mandelson founded in 2016, and was a client of the firm when the ambassador arranged Starmer's visit. So Peter Mandelson arranged a visit between the Prime Minister and Palantir, and because it was informal, no minutes were taken. We have no idea what they talked about. This is the kind of lobbying and corruption that goes on at the high levels. Mandelson is no longer the Global Counsel CEO, but he is both president and chairman of its International Advisory Board. And he's also reportedly kept shares in the company. As with everything, follow the money. Follow the money. They are selling us. Literally. We don't matter to them. They don't matter at all. Not one of us matters to one of them. They don't care. They don't care. We're just commodity. We're just ants. Obviously, Peter Mandelson's financial interests, it's in Peter Mandelson's interests that it gets exclusive FaceTime with the British Prime Minister. It's just all so wrong. It's just all so wrong. And it's so secretive and so slimy. Anyway, let's go to the calls. Andrew is in Warrington. Hello, Andrew.
Hello, Petrie. How are you?
I'm very well. How are you?
Good. Well, you know what? I've had a good year so far, and I need to thank you from the beginning of the year with your colleagues, and I hope your dogs are doing well.
They're very well, thank you.
That's wonderful. And I really like that last bit there about the Prince of Darkness. I'm of an age where, you know, spitting image was prevalent, and, you know, Mr. Mandelson, you know, is the Prince of Darkness, and we know that.
We know that.
But I want to unravel sort of what you've spoke about, and certainly with your last listener, to which I agree. But I think we all need to accept that our data is money to other people, and it's a means of contact. And I thought it was very astute when you talk about our children. I don't mean you and I, and I don't mean obviously, but I talk, you know, about our youth, those who are to follow, who have given it all away. And I think
they are. They've groomed. They've been groomed. They've been prepared for the next stage.
Yes, absolutely. And I think 4 numbers, 1984, 1984. That's what we're.
Absolutely. There's no doubt about it. Somebody is using that as a map.
Yes, as a template.
Yeah.
Absolutely right. And I think there is ways to push back. I push back in my own sweet way. Not answering calls, blocking calls. I don't do, obviously, all the data thing. It's probably all the social things. But that's not for everybody's liking, and that doesn't mean I'm off the grid in inverted commas. But I think as individuals we need to manage that ourselves, and we need to be mindful of what we reveal. And I think sometimes people, and this is a very broad brushstroke. People are out there giving IP addresses unknowingly.
Yeah, I mean, do you see, the trouble is, Andrew, I completely agree with everything you're saying. The problem is they make it so easy, deliberately easy, to pay for things and do things. And who amongst us reads the conditions?
No, well, I don't.
They're longer than a Shakespeare play.
Absolutely right.
We don't, of course, they know we don't read them.
No.
But we're just signed over everything by not reading them.
That's right, yeah.
And if you don't agree to the conditions, you can't use your phone, for example.
Well, you can't use that particular app.
Yeah.
I would say, yes. But it's just, I think it's the way we've shifted, and as you've talked about in the past, about not using cash, and it's all GPay or Apple Pay or, all those things. And as you say, unwittingly, we go, oh, that's very convenient.
Yeah, that's easy. That. Yeah.
And then suddenly, all your information, and funny enough, I watched that film Minority Report the other day.
It's a good film.
And they scan your eyes and they say, oh, hello, Petrie. Would you be interested in this? Or, hello, Andrew, would you be interested in that? Just off your eye scan as you walk into a shopping mall. And that's what we'll get to. That's what we'll get.
Oh, very soon. Yeah.
Yeah, maybe you and I won't be alive, but I
hope not. It is. You're absolutely right. But we are heading there quicker than.
I think yes,
we know.
Pretty much quicker than we know. And when I said to your producer, in particular pensions, I took out a private pension in the early 80s when they first started, and I thought it was, I was going to be better off. But to be honest, I'd have been better off just putting it in a bank account, because it goes up and down like you know what.
How do I know exactly what you're thinking?
Well, yes, you know what I'm saying.
I do, yeah.
I'm trying to be discreet. And looking back, I think, should I have done that, or should I have invested in that pension, or should I have just, what? I think you said the other night, put it under my mattress.
Yeah. Look, we are increasingly less important to these people, and the more that AI is developed, and this is why companies want to develop them, we become even less important, because we're not even then worker ants. They don't need us. They don't need us, and they don't want us. And it's as simple as we don't matter.
No,
it's not about security. Anybody that thinks any of this is about security has been gaslit.
No, absolutely right. And you're absolutely right. We're made to feel like we don't matter.
Well, because we don't.
That's the difference between junk mail 30 years ago and nowadays.
Yeah. We increasingly don't. We're an annoyance.
Well,
we're just an annoyance.
Listen, we're on the same page, and I just feel that you are an opportunity to discuss it, which I appreciate, and thank you personally, and thank Talk Radio for the opportunity, because otherwise it just drives probably me and thousands of others mad.
Of course it does, and that is the whole point of certainly of this hour, is that we get to talk about it and get it off our chest. It's as much for me as it is for you.
Listen, I always love talking to you, and I always say you're the best. Okay.
Bless your heart. You are a lovely person. Thank you for saying that. That's Andrew in Warrington there. Right, I'm going to take a very quick break, but I will be back.
across the UK. On DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Hello, good morning. This is Talk, and it's Petrie, and we are talking at the moment about AI and the police using a controversial tool that looks at people's sex lives, their health, their political beliefs. That's the one that really actually worries me. But all of these bits of data that they're pulling together into one place. So they go data mining, they go looking for any information they can find. They also use things like Facebook and your images. All the police are boasting here. They go, oh, we can get so much information on people if we just look on their social media and we see all these images and see. So we've got photographs of them, we know their associations, we know what they do on a Saturday. The police have got no business knowing that. They've got no business knowing that. What's it got to do with them? And this isn't just about criminals. This is also about witnesses and victims. Flossie, love the name Flossie, says AI would be breaking GDPR guidelines. It must be accountable and monitored. Yeah, but it isn't. And they don't care. It's the police, isn't it? You know. They'll just say, well, we're just doing this to make you safer. Sam says, morning Petrie, do I trust the police with this sort of information? A resounding no. They've done nothing to prove they can be trusted with any data. Misreading it, profiling is non-existent in reality. That's from Sam. I mean, the idea that they can be profiling people and that this could replace proper police work. I mean, then the police are not allowed just to arbitrarily arrest you. It's not allowed in this country. They're police by consent. They have to have a reason for doing it. And just an AI saying we think it was him or her that did it, it shouldn't be a reason for being picked up by the police, being questioned by the police. Because, well, the computer said it was probably you because we fed in all your information and it seems like you're the sort of person who might commit that sort of crime. So we're going to take you down to the police station and try and reverse engineer this thing. That's not how it works. If that's the case, you then are in a position where you have to prove that you are not guilty to the police. You then have to say, look, I didn't do it, and I'll tell you why I didn't do it. That's not the way round that conversation goes in this country. The police are supposed to sit and say, we've got evidence, we believe you did it, and here's why we believe you did it. Not you sitting there going, well, I didn't do it. I was at home watching telly, I've got no evidence to back that up, but I didn't do it. I've got, you know, oh gosh, I know nobody knew that I was at home, I was just at home. Why do you need an alibi? You didn't do anything. But if these kind of tools start getting used in the way that they're talking about, that's what's going to happen. You then will be sitting in front of police officers trying to have an alibi, trying to prove you didn't do it. The burden is on them to prove you did. And this is even before you get to court. So, you happy with that? Really? Anyone, witness, victim, ex-con who's turned their life around? Could be any of us, couldn't it? Not that I'm an ex-con. Paul is in Bolton. Hello, Paul. You see this as potentially a good thing?
Well, I'm ringing up sort of with the middle ground opinion here. I'm not sure if you've had both sides of the opinion, but it reminds me a lot of when COVID and the pandemic, and you got a lot of people who were sceptical about the rules and masks and things like that. And if I'm being honest, I'm left-wing, but I was sort of with the people who were sceptical, especially with the masks, because I just think not seeing faces is just awful. But I got at work I got worked up like a lot of people. In fact, I was very worked up about the masks and all that. And all the skeptics were like, well, we're all going to be like this forever and it'll be like Handmaid's Tale and what have you. But then 5 years on, it didn't really amount to that, if you know where I'm coming from. So even though I'm skeptical, then I think sometimes the people who get you worked up with all these conspiracies sometimes are not completely right either, and sometimes the truth's somewhere in the middle, if you know where I'm coming from.
Yeah, so, I mean, the thing is that, though, during COVID, we saw police overreach, didn't we? We saw them, arresting people for having a cup of tea on a bench. We saw them at Sarah Everard's peaceful vigil, arresting women who weren't doing anything wrong. So we have seen police overreach with those things because they don't always apply the rules in a most sensible way. But this isn't conspiracy, though. This is happening now. And the police are able, in any police service around the country, they can go to any AI company in the world, buy the software and apply it, and there's no oversight. That's happening now.
But for me, like I say, I definitely think it's good to be sceptical. So I'm not, like I say, it's definitely an opinion from neither extreme. But at the same time, I just think you were saying about sex life, health, politics, but I'm not sure what's to be gained from them knowing that information. It must be pretty boring, some of it, you know what I mean? So I think it's right to be concerned, but not like overly concerned, if that makes sense.
But Paul, yeah, it does. But Paul, I think that we're under concerned. I really do, because this is creeping now, and this will speed up because AI is becoming ever more prevalent in our lives.
I don't like AI taking over. No.
Yeah, so it's starting, and it's going to go further and further, and I'm with you. They don't need to know about your sex life. They don't need to know about your political affiliations. They don't need to know about your health. But that doesn't stop them from wanting to know that. And that's the point, that they are overreaching with this information. They don't need to know it.
The thing is, and this is the argument that would come from the people who aren't as bothered about this. And like I said, for me, it's about both sides having a valid point. But they'd say, well, like, I've got my train of thoughts gone there, but a lot of the people who, they'd say, well, you have, that's it, you have mobile phones and you put in all your stuff on Facebook, and then you put it on Twitter, and then you put it on Instagram, and nowadays TikTok as well, and all sorts, and everyone knows about you anyway. So sometimes people get worked up about these things, but a lot of them people who are getting worked up about these things, they never opt out of all this new technology. Do you know what I mean? They're all on.
Yeah, no, I get that, but that's your choice. That is your choice as a free human being, to make that decision as to how much of yourself you want out there, how much of yourself. But it's also spread around. It's not all in one place. I have a generalised concern of governments or organisations having all the information they need on you in one place, one click of the finger. That is where you lose all of your privacy. If you choose to put, I don't know, your dating experience on TikTok, that's your choice. If you want to talk about your sex life on Instagram, that's your choice. How it then is reverted to becoming okay that somebody else has that information that isn't your choice to give them, I don't know.
Well, like I said, I can't, at this minute in time, I can't say I get past the middle opinion on this, because I do get the scepticism. I genuinely do. I'm not one of them people. But then at the same time, I just think, because funnily enough, I've read something today, and I was listening about someone with CCTV came up earlier. Oh, and I also wanted to quickly say about chemtrails. I mean, if people are worried about chemtrails, and surely that's an argument for everything going electric, well, that's another debate.
Yeah, that is another debate. Yeah, I mean, I don't buy into, I don't do conspiracies. I don't do conspiracy theories, but a lot of this stuff I have been researching and looking into and reading about, proper books and proper, proper studies for decades. So I go by fact-based information. I don't do conspiracy theories. This isn't a conspiracy theory. This is mission creep, and this this is now reaching a point where AI, not human beings, will dictate who is innocent and who is guilty, and that's what concerns me.
Well, interestingly, obviously I wanted to get the chemtrails thing in, but lastly, I wanted to say that, interestingly, I was reading today on Facebook, and funnily enough, it was to do with the gay world, and we have gay saunas and that, and someone said they'd gone in a gay sauna in Blackpool, I won't name it, but basically they'd had a bad experience with the receptionist there. It was all captured on CCTV. The police came, the company knew about it, and nothing was done, do you know what I mean? So often, again, this worrying about CCTV, like, it's just... nothing's done with half of it anyway. Do you know what I mean? It's like so.
Why not take them down? Well, why not remove them? Why not remove them?
Yeah, well, it's pointless having it because a lot of the time things don't get done, and obviously there's corruption within that. So places will have CCTV, and where they need it to benefit them, they'll use it, and where they don't, they probably delete the video, don't they?
Yeah, exactly. So why not just have them all removed? Because it's not about safety. It's not about safety. It's about control.
I get where you're coming from. Like I said, I just think we shouldn't go too overboard with it, because that's what happened with the vaccines versus the face mask.
No, this is different. This isn't conspiracy. This isn't conspiracy.
Yeah.
I don't do conspiracy. Everybody that knows me will tell you that. I just go by fact-based evidence, and the evidence that I've seen is deeply, deeply concerning. Paul, brilliant though. Thank you very much indeed. And I think I've got to take another break. Yes, I have. I've been told. So I will be back in a moment.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on your smart speaker, on your smart TV, and on your side. This is Talk.
Hello, good morning. It is Talk, and it's Petrie here until 1 o'clock. That gives us about 10 minutes together. A couple more messages that I want to read. This one says, "Morning, Petrie. I'm not willing to give up any of my data. They know too much already. I don't trust police or government departments not to sell on my data. For security reasons, my name is Denzel." Well, that's what my girlfriend Chantel calls me. Yeah, right, Gary. Yeah, right. Simon says, "You ask a very valid question about do I feel safe? I've just turned 60 and genuinely have nothing to hide, so I have to admit I do feel safe, and I do think that within my expected lifetime there will not be any problems." Well, you've still got 20, 30 years. A lot can change. And my worry, as with everything, is about those behind me. If I were in my 30s and 40s, I would be extremely worried about what future governments would know about me and use against me. And that is a really solid point. That's from Simon and Bray. Yeah. But don't be fooled into thinking that those of us who are a bit older won't be caught up in this. It's possible. I mean, AI is growing exponentially. AI is now teaching AI, and that AI is teaching other AI. So, I mean, this is, and like I said, Donald Trump wants there to be no oversight on AI for 10 years. Where will it be by then? Without control. And there's comments in some of the papers that I've been reading here on this and our potential part in this. And Keir Starmer said this is a Brexit bonus, is that we don't have the same laws and oversight that they have in Europe. Well, I want the same oversight and rules that they have, because they're probably pretty tight, but that's a good thing. It is a good thing to keep an eye on this technology and the people who are using it. There is no oversight in this country at the moment. And things like facial recognition, these facial recognition cameras, they are overwhelmingly used in the private sector. The police are using them as well, but they have restrictions. The private sector don't have any restrictions. They can do what they like. You can have some little oik looking at cameras and deciding that's his mate from school who he didn't like. He can, this is true, he can grab the image of that on a facial recognition camera and have that person blocked because there is no oversight. There is no due process. That person won't even know that they've been banned for other stores until they try to walk into a shop and they are stopped by security and embarrassed and searched and kicked out. So if you're sitting there thinking, well, this doesn't affect me, it can. And that's the point. We've all been gaslit into believing that if we're good, upstanding, innocent members of the community, none of this will affect us. Though there are many cases going through the courts at the moment where people have been wrongly accused of being shoplifters, have been humiliated in public, been banned from shops that they had no business being banned from by the private sector. And any oversight in the private sector is voluntary. It is the Wild West. It is disproportionate. Big Brother. And like I said, it doesn't even have, they don't even have to prove that you're guilty of anything. You don't even have to have done anything. You can be put on its private sector cameras in all these shops and all these businesses. They can do what they like. There is no check. There are no checks and balances. No oversight at all. So it's not just about being a criminal anymore. It's about all of us being treated like we are criminals. And us having to prove our innocence instead of somebody else, some security guard in a shop, proving that we're guilty of something. It's flipped. It's completely flipped. And it affects all of us. Hans is in London, a new caller. Hello, good morning.
Hey, Petrie. How are you doing? You okay?
I'm very well indeed. How are you?
I'm very well. I was just watching a show late at night and couldn't help but interject. So basically, I think what you're saying is absolutely true as well. I mean, I kind of grew up when the internet was just coming out, like Wi-Fi was getting very popular. But what I have to say is that I think people are very naive to the idea, of AI and stuff, and they tend to kind of, when a new thing comes out with the internet, it's more convenient, it's easier to pay for this, you can use a hand to pay for something. But what they don't realize, I think, is the security measures as well. Like, the latest iPhone comes out, it's faster, you can upload things quicker, it's more clearer. But how safe do they actually make it, So, they say everything's fine and everything, but, we don't know the safety of these things as well. And with the new AI stuff coming out as well, I wonder with jobs as well, what will happen with jobs, there's certain jobs out there where possibly AI could become so powerful that it won't need those workers anymore, So
no, the police won't need as many people, right? If they've got an AI tool that tells them to go and, pick up Joe Smith from number 32 Acacia Avenue because he fits the profile.
The thing is with the police as well, I mean, you can trust most of them, but the only thing is the problem would be that how many, it's just in the right hands it could work, but if it falls into the wrong hands, that's always the question. And how well is it being regulated as well? Who's actually checking it, regulating?
Nobody.
I think the UK needs to be a bit more stricter, with the way they're regulating certain things online. And it's very funny as well. Maybe 10, 12 years ago, I think. I remember someone in my family that be hesitant to buy something on Amazon, would think twice about it. But nowadays, transactions are just, just pull out your card, here you go, just tap it.
Oh my God, it's so easy, right? This is the thing.
Easy, it's so convenient. Oh my God, you could just pay like this, touch your card here, don't you? You could just, you want to pay? One click, here you go. But, people don't actually realize, it's like comfort has become, the norm with it, rather than, other things as well, So people don't, like I said, people are very naive to it. They just kind of brush it off. I mean, people have busy lives. They're working, trying to pay all the bills and mortgages. But, this is actually a big issue. I think should look into it. I mean, M&S as well. Marks and Spencer got hacked recently. Harrods. Quite a few companies, So,
and I think during that time I interviewed somebody about who stays awake, a big banking guy who stays awake every night because he's scared of his bank being hacked every single night, because there are so many attacks all the time, and we know that AI is going to, is being used to mount those hacks. It is, and people are, earlier on was talking about the fact that the reason that there's no real oversight in this country and everybody can do what they like, it's a wild west, is because governments don't want to lose out to big deals and big businesses with AI. And so they sort of sell us down the river for the sake of a business deal.
Also, I wonder, my question is, with phones being so prevalent, so out there, how much are police actually being trained in, internet stuff as well, cyber stuff, Because it's so much out there, it's so common now for everyone to have a phone. So how well are they trained, in case these things happen? I know they have cyber units as well, but how well are they trained in terms of general things? And if someone asks them, oh, this has happened with my phone or something,
Yeah.
Like, what would the reaction be? Would they say, oh, here's a number for this organization? They should all be trained in something. I mean, I'm a firm believer, like, the police should be trained in martial arts as well. Should have fit, healthy officers. The training should be proper, like, where, even in cyber stuff as well, they're properly trained so that they're very competent to deal with anything, that arises.
I mean, the world is changing, right? The world is changing so quickly. It's so quickly with this technology. And we already know that AI can be racist. We already know that it can lie. I mean, these are things that should never be. Why have they been programmed to be racist, or why have they been programmed to lie? But because it's human beings that are programmed, they're teaching the AI. So if the human being is flawed, the AI is flawed.
We need to, I think, honestly, we need to go back a bit old school and just take it a bit easy, take it one step at a time, because it's just going so fast right now, that, literally even replacing everything with online banking.
Yeah.
I know they're trying to make it more secure, but I was actually quite surprised that there's certain things is quite secure in certain ways, but this, the old school stuff as well, it needs to stay around a bit longer until, fully everything.
Until we fully understand it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, online banking, for example, has got rid of banks.
Exactly.
Because who goes into a bank? I haven't been into a bank for years. Yeah.
You don't need to hire people for a bank,
No.
But obviously people miss that human interaction as well, when you go to a desk and you talk to someone and, I mean,